Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Dragon Ball, starting from adding 1 combat power per second. Chapter 1. Ding. Congratulations to the host for successfully arriving on Earth and meeting the system activation conditions. The unlimited combat power enhancement system is starting. 0.1%, 0.10%, 0.50%, 0.99%. Ding. The system was successfully activated and started. Host. Lin Chuan. Age. 25. Height. 185 cm. Weight. 75 kg. Combat Power Index. 15,000 points. The current level of the system, Level 1. Automatically hang up and activate. Combat Power plus 1 per second. 25 years ago. A full 25 years ago. Who knows how I got here in the past 25 years. As the spaceship landed and arrived, Lin Chuan, who was in the spaceship, was full of excitement and could not restrain his emotions from losing control. As a time traveler, he traveled to the world of Dragon Ball and became a Saiyan child who was sent to invade alien planets in his early years. To him, such a thing was so incredible. However, it became a fact. I remember that when he traveled through time, he was still full of excitement when he was in the breeding warehouse. I have determined that after traveling through time and coming to this world, I will definitely become a big shot in the future. Even if the starting combat power is only 50 points, it is still 50 points, which is 48 points higher than Kakarot. It should be noted that a capable farmer holding a shotgun only has 5 points of combat power. The start was full of expectations, but no matter what happened, Lin Chuan would also imagine another possibility, that is, even if he stretched his hips again, as long as he had the chance to find a remote small planet to hide, he would still be an invincible existence across the planet. By that time, not to mention the ability to destroy the universe with 3 punches and compete with the god of destruction in the original work, but with this strength, it will be enough to marry 10 or 20 beautiful wives on a low-grade planet, and live safely. The cow has finished his life. Imagine, nature is beautiful. No matter which one it is what Lin Chuan desires. And, the most important thing is to bring a golden finger when traveling through time. Unfortunately, it cannot be activated directly. It needs to meet the activation conditions before it can be activated. Go to Earth. You can activate the Unlimited Combat Power Improvement System. It's a very cool system name. Although he doesn't know what its function is, Lin Chuan is so excited about it. After all, as long as he is 2 years old, has stable strength and functions, and can accept the inheritance of memory information, he can leave planet Vegeta to invade alien planets. When the time comes, it won't be easy to go to Earth. The so-called system is in hand, I have the world. At the age of 2, he received this kind of cultural memory transmission similar to the inheritance of the Saiyan family, and was then sent to a surveyed low-level planet to invade. If the combat power is less than 100, they will only be transported to planets with extremely low risk for invasion. Therefore, Lin Chuan did not have any resistance at that time, nor did he have any thoughts of stopping it. On the contrary, after leaving planet Vegeta, the sky is high enough for birds to fly, and the sea is wide enough for fish to jump. Who would have thought that in a few years, planet Vegeta would be annihilated by Frieza because of a word from the god of destruction Beerus? If you want to live, you have to think more about yourself. Just remain unknown. It would be best if no trace could be found, or even considered dead. Otherwise, Frieza's minions might not let him go. As for saving people and saving his parents in this life, Lin Chuan didn't have any emotion at all, and he hadn't even seen what his parents in this life looked like. I only know that there is a record in the inherited information that his mother is Shirifei and his father is Thomas. His parents, both fighting Saiyans, have been away fighting all year round and have never even seen him. Perhaps it was because his combat power was too low and he was just a lower-level warrior, so he was not popular. Of course, Lin Chuan didn't care about these. He only cares about whether he can get to Earth quickly, activate the system, and start the path to rise. When his strength is so strong that even the gods can be completely surpassed, then he can pretend to shout that sentence. The top of the immortals, proud of the world, only with me, Lin Chuan, can the world be prosperous. Maybe it doesn't fit in this world, but that's what it means. It's a pity that Lin Chuan was extremely disappointed before arriving at the invaded planet. I thought that maybe I could take this opportunity to make a U-turn and change my destination to go to Earth. As a result, the spacecraft was granted permission to reach the destination planet on its first flight before it could return or go to other planets. Lin Chuan, who had no choice but to let the spaceship move forward, went into hibernation. Space navigation is boring and long. In order to ensure the stability of body functions and to pass time quickly, living bodies will choose to hibernate. After a good sleep, you can reach your destination. With this, the pain of more than 20 years has finally come to an end. When he arrived at the planet he was about to invade, he realized that this planet was no longer what his clan had surveyed many years ago. The entire planet ushered in a mass extinction of species due to the impact of meteorites. At the same time, the planet was enveloped in the sky by perennial haze and volcanic ash, leading to the advent of the Ice Age. When he arrived, he entered directly into a hellish life. Fortunately, he is a Saiyan, not a low-level species without strength. Even as a child, with the help of the compressed basic food reserves in the spaceship, he can barely ensure that he can survive in a short period of time, so that he can slowly get used to it and find hope of survival. You said, now that it has reached its destination, can't the spaceship go to other planets? Indeed. However, he was traveling on an old spaceship built by Frieza's Legion in the early days. The protection level was so low that after the spacecraft entered the atmosphere, it was swept away by thick sand and dust. The landing point happened to be in an ice valley full of potholes, causing the universe to collapse. The ship was damaged and could no longer conduct space voyages. In simple words, he was trapped and died on this planet named V3114. Just like that, let alone going to Earth to activate the system, it is difficult to say whether he can survive. For more than 20 years, Lin Chuan could be said to have been crawling around on the planet every day, fighting for survival every day. Until 3 months ago, a spaceship from Frieza's army fell from the sky. It seemed that he suddenly remembered this low-level planet that he had to conquer in the early years, so he came to investigate whether it was still valuable. The opponent's combat power is quite good, with 5,000 points. But Lin Chuan, who was still hidden, killed him with one blow. As a result, he not only obtained a pile of supplies, but also obtained this new type of micro-spaceship. It should be said that for Lin Chuan, this was a pie from heaven. Fortunately, he has been surviving in a cruel environment over the years, and he will also use his knowledge of cultivation to improve his strength. Otherwise, it would really be impossible to kill this Frieza army soldier. When he had the opportunity to leave the planet, and he also found the planet named Earth number from the star map of the spaceship, Lin Chuan did not hesitate at all. He even discarded all the things stored on the planet all year round and left directly. In the end, it took 3 months. Today, he finally arrived on Earth where the original work set sail. Moreover, the system activation task that had not been completed for 25 years was finally completed. Excited, happy, emotions kept coming up. Lin Chuan recalled the past 20 years and almost burst into tears. If he hadn't been a time traveler, if he hadn't been trying hard to restrain himself and hope for a miracle tomorrow. He will never wait until this day. Anyone else would probably go crazy. Sort out your emotions. Lin Chuan finally calmed down and then fully focused on the system. Infinite Combat Power Improvement System. At this moment, it is truly understood what the function of this system is. After 25 years, today, all the resentment and negative psychology have finally been let out in one breath. Combat Strength +1. Combat Strength +1. Combat Strength +1. Combat Power +1 per second. Lin Chuan suddenly felt refreshed as he watched the prompts for Combat Power +1 constantly appear on the auto hook item. Although with his combat power of 15,000 points, even if it increases a little every second, there is no special feeling. But if he continues to accumulate this, his strength will improve by leaps and bounds within a short period of time. The combat power increases by 1 point per second. 1 minute is a 60-point increase in combat power. 1 hour, that's 3,600 combat power points. This means that it only takes a little over 4 hours to double your 15,000 combat power points to 30,000 points. It's scary to think about it. Simply this is his golden finger, not the enemy's. If it is an enemy, what can he use to block it? Based on this calculation, his combat power can be increased by 86,400 points in one day. After 25 years of hard training, I have not been able to reach 1/6 of this value. Counting 30 days in a month, that's 2,592,000 points. In 12 months of the year, combat power increased by more than 30 million points. Lin Chuan can do nothing, and in 3 years, he can become a universe emperor with a combat power of over 100 million. What is the ultimate fighting power of Universe Emperor Frieza? It's just 120 million points. If you just stay like this for 4 years, you can surpass it. The most important thing is that this is still a level 1 system function. The system can be upgraded. After level 2, the combat power that can be increased per second will be increased to 10 points. That's it for level 2, but what about level 3? What about level 4, or even higher? At this moment, for him in the past, those unattainable existences and those areas that could not be easily reached now seemed to be within his reach. I really have the system in hand, and I have the world. But, how to improve the level? I was confused because there was no prompt from the system and I didn't know what conditions were required. There is no way but to wait and see how to trigger it. I don't think about it anymore. The more I think about it, the more confused I become. I always feel like I have missed something. Have I lived in vain for so many years? No, absolutely not. If I had lived in vain, how would I be where I am now? Lin Chuan suddenly had the urge to laugh or cry. Of course, I don't really think that I am a noob or a waste. Over the years, it's not that he hasn't cultivated, nor has he always been lying down. It's not that he doesn't want to leave the planet, but he has no choice. Even if I try to practice teleportation, I still don't know anything about it. Regarding the cultivation and understanding of Qi, it still took 2 or 3 years to successfully cultivate. On such a planet, he is either fighting for survival or on the way to becoming stronger. Otherwise, he will be greeted by death. So no matter what happens in the future, I will never forget the experience of more than 20 years, day and night. After all, Lin Chuan felt that even though his talent was limited and his starting strength was not strong, he managed to reach 15,000 points. He was very proud. At least he doesn't rely on anything. He grows by himself under limited conditions and circumstances. Besides, in this era, Frieza is not dead yet, and Vegeta may not even have arrived on Earth yet. His strength is far from comparable to that of the protagonist Sun Wukong at this stage. Comparing the protagonist, isn't this enough to prove that he is not wasting his time? It's just that some things really can't be achieved just by thinking about it. To gain strength, you have to take it one step at a time and cultivate yourself steadily, rather than being able to continuously improve by doing it recklessly. Lin Chuan is a time traveler, but he is not a very ambitious person. Think about it, of course. Who doesn't want to have a combat power of over 100 million, a trillion, or even become a Super Saiyan casually, and then a Super Saiyan God casually? But these are unrealistic. All in all, the improvement of strength is directly related to the things experienced. There is a reason why the strength of the Z warriors in the original work increased dramatically after the era of the big universe, and they were not just random improvements. Although it seems like cheating, at least there are adventures and help. 25 years later, compared with the increase in combat power of system function rewards, it is naturally incomparable. Lin Chuan had an idea in his mind, that is, he must stabilize his mind and not be blinded by the continuous improvement of his strength. Of course, you still have to be arrogant. In his past life and this life, he was originally a heroic and bohemian person. After recovering his thoughts, Lin Chuan raised his eyes and shut down the spaceship's system. Now that we have arrived on Earth, there is no need for this spaceship. After suffering for so many years, I finally got to Earth and activated the system. Isn't it okay to take a break? Delicious food, delicious drinks, and fun things. If he didn't comfort himself for 10 days and a half, he would still be sorry for the hardships he had endured for the past 25 years. The next second, an arrogant belief emerged. I opened the hatch of the spaceship, but there was still no movement. It seems that at some point the hatch got stuck and could not be opened under the control of the spacecraft system. After several attempts, it still didn't work. Lin Chuan didn't want to think about anything else and kicked open the door panel of the spaceship with a domineering kick. They have already reached the Earth, and this spaceship is still trying to play tricks on me. As the hatch was kicked open, a different air hit us. Although it didn't feel like the spring breeze was blowing on his face, the refreshing cool breeze made Lin Chuan feel even more comfortable. This is a feeling I have never experienced in my life. Standing up, leaving the small space of the spaceship, and walking out of the crater created by the spaceship, Lin Chuan truly stood on this land. This is a mountain valley with lush forests and grass, and numerous mountains and rivers. Full of the flavor of life, it is so intoxicating. Although there is no breath around, you can feel the breath of various animals from a distance. As long as it has a certain intensity, it can be checked. This is the benefit of practicing Qi. For me, this is a new beginning. From this moment on, the sea is really vast. With emotion in his heart, Lin Chuan narrowed his eyes, thought, and slowly floated into the sky. This is the Earth. Although it is somewhat different, it is still the Earth. Lin Chuan was quite emotional as he uttered these words. After all, he was an Earthling in his previous life, and became a Saiyan after traveling through time in this life, and later stayed on that doomsday planet for 25 years. However, the Earth is still the homeland deeply rooted in his beliefs. As the saying goes, first impression comes first. Although they are two different worlds on Earth, they are more or less similar. Open your hands to the world and be part of the Earth. For him, the future is smooth. After breathing enough fresh air, Lin Chuan flew between mountains, rivers, lakes and seas. Not only did I see the scenery of this world, but I also saw the creatures on Earth. There are some that he is familiar with, some that he is not familiar with, and there are even animals that have long been extinct on the Earth in previous lives, such as various dinosaurs, saber-toothed tigers and other ancient animals. It wasn't until he galloped hundreds of miles on the sea, stirring up thousands of waves, that Lin Chuan suddenly stopped this crazy venting. For no other reason than that, the combat power detector carried on his right eye sent out a burst of alarm. This is also the inventory in the spaceship that robbed Frieza's army's advanced soldiers 3 months ago. Don't be afraid of being discovered, because even though this thing has the interstellar communication function, it still has huge flaws. The first one is that there is no identity authentication function. You cannot share channels unless you log into your personal registration account. So even if you use someone else's combat power detector, as long as you don't log in, others won't notice you, let alone know who you are, so anyone can use it as long as they carry it. Second, the universe is so big, a galaxy is so huge that as long as it is far enough apart, it will be directly ignored. There are countless combat power detectors within the range, how could they pay attention to such a mere one? Spaceships are a similar example. Although they are numbered, in fact, as long as they are not labeled as objects of focus, they will not receive special attention. Lin Chuan had made detailed guesses and analyses on this point back then. Unless you take the initiative to contact me, you will not be found. When we first arrived at the planet V3114, although the spacecraft was damaged and unable to conduct space navigation, the internal communication function still maintained for 10 years before it was overwhelmed and damaged, plus the combat power detector. He had received the news of planet Vegeta's destruction. At that time, he had been worried for a long time whether Frieza's army would come to kill him to eliminate future troubles, so he did not dare to take the initiative to contact him for fear of exposing his whereabouts. This worry lasted for a full year, and then it subsided. From this, Lin Chuan also roughly understood that although Frieza's army wiped out the Saiyans, they would also send high-level troops to kill the Saiyans outside, but as long as they could survive enough, they could escape the genocide. After all, how many Saiyan babies were sent out in the original novel? The number may not be 100 million, but it is definitely more than 10,000. Afterwards, there were only a few surviving Saiyans. Maybe there are still in the universe, but definitely not more than 2 hands. Therefore, what is certain is that a Saiyan like him will either die in a harsh environment, or be accidentally killed by a hidden master or extremely lethal weapon on the planet, or else he will successfully conquer the planet reported it, and was discovered by Frieza's legion and killed. The only ones allowed to survive by Frieza were Vegeta, Nappa, and Raditz. Let's talk about Broly, Paragus, and Vegeta's younger brother Tarbal, who only appeared in the later stages of the original work. It was just that they were living in a low profile and lingering, so they were never discovered and killed. Otherwise, Broly should be on stage early and Tarbell will die. Lin Chuan didn't think that Frieza would be so kind as to keep a Prince Vegeta as a dog and a useless little prince to play with. 2,800 kilometers to the southwest. How many people with more than 1,000 combat power points are fighting against each other? Combat strength 416. Combat strength 1330. Combat strength 1307. Combat strength 1500. Wait a minute, 1307 dropped to 1 point. 1500 points dropped to 1345 points. Hi, could it be that? As familiar data appeared in the combat power detector, Lin Chuan was stunned for a moment. I was so excited before that I forgot to use Chi to sense the situation on the entire Earth, so as to judge what stage the plot has developed. In fact, Lin Chuan could roughly guess it, because according to the time when planet Vegeta exploded, until today, it should be the era when the great universe is about to begin. He is 25 years old this year, 2 years older than Sun Wukong, which means that Sun Wukong is now 23 years old. 23 years old, isn't this a twist of fate? Coupled with the extension of the plot, Lin Chuan immediately thought, who are these fighting auras? Sun Wukong, Piccolo, Sun Gohan. And the important figure who opened a new era, Raditz. Good guy, this is a good show for me, and it seems to be over soon. Lin Chuan glared and rolled his eyes. Lin Chuan couldn't let go of such a good opportunity. I once thought about what I would do and how I would develop after coming to Earth. After 25 years, although those fantasies have come to nothing, but now I have an opportunity to let the Z warriors on Earth know about his existence so that accept his existence. When Lin Chuan got excited, he immediately became furious and rushed towards his destination without hesitation. The speed is so fast that it reaches nearly 30,000 meters per second, which is 100 times the speed of sound. The sound barrier continued to explode, as if it was about to shatter the void. For him, Raditz is a stepping stone in the Z warrior circle. How can we just let it go? Even though he is also a Saiyan, he is him. Taking this opportunity to save Sun Wukong not only changes the plot, but also integrates into it. Not to mention having a good relationship with the Z warriors, let's just say that he has come to the Earth, and in this era, many people and things can be cut off. To intercept some people, you need an absolutely perfect identity. Just like the heroine Bulma, how could she let her go? How can we not cut off the nonsense? Lin Chuan is a realistic person. Before time travel, he had imagined that after time travel, now he has really come to the Dragon Ball world, and there are so many opportunities. Strength must be obtained, and women are also indispensable. If it were Lin Chuan 3 months ago, he really didn't have any hope for the future. But God loves to joke so much. He sent that Frieza army soldier 3 months ago, thus making him successful. As for Vegeta, he can only say that he is sorry. Wrong. This real world, now that he is here, can no longer be calculated according to the original work. His life, what is he going to do? Why should he care about others? 100 times the speed of sound, reaching a speed of more than 30,000 meters per second. In just 1.5 minutes, Lin Chuan had crossed thousands of kilometers and arrived at his destination. At this moment, from landing on the Earth to now, Lin Chuan's combat power level has reached 16,680 points. From 15,000 points to the current 16,680 points, it has increased by 1,680 points. 1,680 seconds have passed, which is a full 28 minutes. In such a short period of time, even if his strength improved bit by bit, the continuous increase accumulated in such a short period of time made Lin Chuan feel extremely satisfied physically and mentally. There was no specific feeling when activating the system, but now, Lin Chuan has truly experienced the rapid improvement in strength. Even though it seems that there is only an improvement of 1680 points, not even 2000 points, warriors of his level can already distinguish between superior and inferior warriors easily. At least now Lin Chuan can be sure that he can completely defeat himself before arriving on Earth, and it is extremely easy. At the same time, above the ground, originally, the war situation was very unstable. The advantage that was finally created was reversed for the first time because of Sun Wukong's careless kindness. The second opportunity was created, but it was missed because of concern for Sun Wuhan. Now is the third time. It is unimaginable that the 4-year-old Son Gohan burst out with unparalleled fighting power and severely injured Raditz with one blow. Now, it's time to turn the tables again. However, another person wearing the same clothes as Raditz suddenly appeared in the sky. This person appeared so domineeringly and suddenly, his speed was so fast that it shook the void and was extremely terrifying. Now standing in the void, exuding an extremely terrifying aura. It's much scarier than Raditz. Ha, ha ha, ha 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 ha, Kakarot, you are going to be finished. It seems I'm not the only one who came to Earth. Your Earth has been spotted by Frieza's army a long time ago. Don't say I didn't warn you, this man's combat power should be far superior to mine, and you will all die. Raditz was held by Sun Wukong from behind, and because he had received a fatal headbutt from Sun Wukong before, he was unable to break free for a short time. Originally, he was still afraid, because the guy named Piccolo was condensing the skills that could kill him. Once he succeeds, he will die on Earth. It is better to come by chance than to come well. Even if they don't know each other's identity and purpose, they are both Frieza's army combat uniforms, which means they both belong to the army. Raditz would not know, he is too self-righteous and has too rich imagination. Even if they are also wearing Frieza's army combat uniform, who can guarantee that only Frieza's army will wear it? At this time, Sun Wukong could no longer hold on. He could only put aside everything and shouted to Piccolo without thinking about his own life. Hurry up and do it, Piccolo, I can't hold on anymore. No matter whether the new guy is a friend or an enemy, you can only think about other things if you kill me, the eldest brother first. Speaking of this, Sun Wukong also vomited blood because of his injuries. Sun Wukong is very innocent and has simple ideas, but I have to say that he can make decisions at critical moments. When he did this, Raditz's newly born sense of luck was defeated again, and he immediately panicked. Stop joking, Kakarot, do you want to die with me? Even if you want to die, don't delay, keep me on your back. Haven't you seen the situation clearly yet? Your Earth is over. Hey, you are finally scared. That's right, I just want to die with you. There is no brotherly feeling, Sun Wukong doesn't care about anything else now. This point has been established since Raditz touched Sun Wuhan. If Sun Wuhan is not moved, Sun Wukong thinks that he can persuade this so-called elder brother to put down his butcher knife. What are you waiting for, Piccolo? He gritted his teeth and felt Raditz's power getting stronger and stronger. Sun Wukong had exceeded his own limit. After all, with his current strength, he is far behind Raditz. Even in his prime, it would have been difficult to lock down Raditz. He was anxious and urging. But he didn't know that Piccolo on the other side was feeling very uncomfortable at this time. Sun Wukong is innocent and simple, how could he know how Piccolo feels now? The energy that suddenly appeared out of the sky was like a planet pressing down on him, making him unable to move. The chi in the body is inherently unstable, even if it gathers beyond the limit with the help of the demonic light-killing cannon, in this case, it is directly disrupted. Even if the moves remain intact, the level of combat power has exceeded its original limit. However, he was so shocked that he couldn't move. Cold sweat broke out all over his body, and Piccolo gritted his teeth. Such a good opportunity can only be missed. He had a lot of resentment. If Sun Wukong had not released his hold on Raditz's tail, Raditz would have died. The situation will not become like this. Beside, the timid Sun Wuhan was trembling and crying. Under such circumstances, Piccolo was even more irritable. Breathing heavier and heavier, he watched the man in the air gradually fall, and finally landed on the ground. The direct look in his eyes almost made him lose his mind. Horrible. The combat effectiveness has exceeded the previous critical value and reached 1480 points. This amazing move not only maximizes one's own strength to the limit, but also makes the move lethal enough to kill the enemy beyond the level. The words of the evaluation said. Lin Chuan narrowed his eyes and was a little interested in trying Piccolo's ultimate move. Demon Penetrating Light-Killing Cannon, this ultimate move that first showed its brilliance in the first part of the universe. How amazing was it when you saw it back then? It can be said that in fact, the early IQs of the Z warriors were all outstanding. Various moves emerge endlessly. But in the end they were all submerged in the tide of history. The early Z warriors each had their own characteristics by virtue of their different methods. Later, the strength could not keep up, and the result was a development route dominated by strength. As long as the strength is enough, moves and so on will be gradually put aside. Sun Wukong is either Kaio Fist or Turtle-style Qigong Wave. Naturally, there are many Kame Senryu fighting methods, but they are all the same. The same goes for everyone else. Vegeta, Son Gohan, Piccolo, everyone will not innovate easily. This did not change slightly for the two little ones until the beginning of the Majin Buu chapter. After the advent of the Super Era, especially Sun Wukong and Vegeta, they began to pay attention to changes in their moves, choosing to accept new things, thereby breaking through to a new realm. Who? After finally saying such a sentence, Piccolo was sweating profusely. It should be said that Piccolo in this era is still very discerning. If you feel that you are not easily manipulated by the other party, you will become very tough and domineering. But if the opponent is strong enough to crush him, then he will be smart enough to retreat in order to advance. Before answering this question, how about you let me take over your move first? Lin Chuan said. As soon as these words came out, the three people present were shocked. No, it should be four people. Even Sun Wuhan understood it, staring with two round eyes, looking silly and cute. After a few seconds of silence, before Piccolo and Sun Wukong could speak, Raditz, who was locked by Sun Wukong, seized the opportunity, broke free from the restraints, and regained control. Kakarot, you calculated this against me, my dear brother, and next I will let you know how stupid you are. Raditz escaped from danger and did not stay where he was in the next second. Instead, he came to Lin Chuan's side as if he had grasped a life-saving straw. He subconsciously regarded Lin Chuan as his companion. Due to a series of accidents before, he was almost killed twice, which made him much more vigilant. He didn't directly launch a fatal counterattack against Sun Wukong. To be honest, in Lin Chuan's opinion, he was really stupid. If it were him, he would definitely take this opportunity to fight back directly. You're all risking your life, and you're still acting like a housewife. 1500 points of combat power only showed the level of a few hundred points of combat power. I am a member of the Saiyan team No. B-119 of King Frieza's First Legion. The leader is Vegeta. My name is Raditz. As Raditz revealed his identity, Lin Chuan looked at him sideways. There was absolute intimidation in that look. For a moment, Raditz, who was about to please, stopped talking and stayed in place obediently. For Raditz, he belongs to the lowest level of Frieza's army. Even if he doesn't know how powerful the person in front of him is or what his identity is, he knows that they must be stronger than him. It was obvious from the model of the suit Lin Chuan was wearing that he was at least one level higher than him. Judging from the momentum they released, their combat power exceeded at least 2,000 points. As for using combat power detectors to detect, this is so disrespectful to others. No matter how stupid he is, Raditz knows that it is very impolite to probe someone's background in the current situation. Once he makes the other person unhappy, he becomes their punching bag. To be honest, as a Saiyan, you clearly have a combat power of 1,500 points, but you were beaten into such a miserable state by two people with less than 1,000 combat points. It's really sad. He didn't pay much attention to Lati. Now, Lin Chuan uses his own perspective to criticize the current situation. Tell Raditz what a piece of shit he is. Regarding such a comment, Raditz blushed and felt angry for a moment, but he couldn't express it directly. He could only retort in a low voice. That's entirely because these Earthlings are playing tricks, and they have mastered a method to control their combat power. Otherwise, how could I have been taken advantage of by them again and again? And that kid. Before he finished speaking, Lin Chuan turned around silently and looked at Raditz carefully. This move made Raditz take a deep breath. As Lin Chuan exerted his aura, the combat power detector he wore in front of his eyes also changed digitally. There was no prompt at first, but now there is a digital prompt because of the alarm. The opponent's combat power climbed from 1,000 points to thousands of points in one breath. Combat power, 0.5000 points. U. Raditz was horrified, and immediately became even more groveling. It was determined that this person's status was far above him, at least comparable to that of senior warriors. He originally wanted to retort, but what did his 1,500 points of combat power mean in front of others? Even Nappa, who has a combat power of 4,000 points, is far from being a match for this person. Unless it's a prince. I'm just talking so much to cover up my incompetence. His eyes narrowed, and his breath became heavy for a moment. Lin Chuan directly put pressure on Raditz, seemingly as a superior scolding a subordinate. Under this situation, Sun Wukong, Piccolo and Sun Gohan on the other side seemed to have become air. However, both Sun Wukong and Piccolo, who have experienced hundreds of battles, know that this is their last chance. No matter whether the opponent is friend or foe, or whether he is the same kind as Raditz, to protect the Earth, he must win by surprise. From the exchange of eyes, Sun Wukong and Piccolo seemed to have made up their minds. At this moment, the two of them took action at the same time. Piccolo's demonic light-killing cannon went straight towards Lin Chuan, directly attacking the blind spot in his back. Sun Wukong risked everything and unleashed the final wave of turtle qigong. Under such a situation, Raditz, who was originally scared and had a straight face, was startled and immediately reacted, "You really don't know how to live or die." After that, without waiting for Lin Chuan to react or speak, he instinctively struck backhand with an explosive wave that hit Sun Wukong's turtle-style qigong wave hard. "Where is Lin Chuan?" He turned around with a smile on his face and raised his hand to hold Piccolo's demonic light-killing cannon in his palm. A sneak attack on him. Non-existent. The difference in strength is too big. This ultimate move that can penetrate everything in the world originally had the power to kill Raditz instantly, but in Lin Chuan's hands, it was like a plaything. If it were Lin Chuan, whose combat power had not exceeded 10,000 a few years ago, he might not be so direct. But now the combat power is as high as nearly 17,000 points. Even if he only has 5,000 combat power points, this move can't hurt him. Moreover, his physical strength is excellent, even far superior to that of soldiers of the same level. These years of training on that planet are not in vain, and the combat power is increasing every second. Combat strength is a reflection of comprehensive strength, including the synthesis of all aspects of body functions. Therefore, with the current improvement in combat power, Lin Chuan's body is getting stronger every moment, and the progress is very slow, but this can be obtained without practicing on his own. Seeing his ultimate move blocked by the opponent with one hand, Piccolo's heart became even more horrified. It is unimaginable that after reaching such an attack that exceeds the limit of one's own cognition, what kind of courage does the other party have to dare to follow it so directly? Is the gap really that big? Hateful. What have I been doing all these years? Piccolo cursed secretly in his heart. Over the years, his vision has limited his growth. He thought that he was invincible and that as long as he defeated Sun Wukong, he would be number one in the world. I have never thought that the world outside this world is so vast and vast. Any intruder who appears randomly is an existence that they cannot resist despite their best efforts. This is the case now, but what about in the future? Behind these people represent an extremely huge force, the so-called Frieza Legion. A seemingly unexpected sneak attack. The sand and dust brought by the energy collision explosion are also accompanied by billowing heat waves and fire. Generally speaking, it is really impossible to escape unscathed, but for people who have reached a certain level of strength, it is not worth mentioning. At this time, Lin Chuan stood at the center of the explosion and couldn't help coughing. To quote Raditz's famous saying, that is, useless attacks can only raise some dust. When the aftermath of the explosion completely dissipated, the smoke and dust also disappeared with the wind. Under the gaze of Piccolo and Sun Wukong, their last hopes were wiped out. Not only did it fail, but it didn't even harm the opponent's hair. Especially Lin Chuan, he caught the demon Guangguang killing cannon with one hand, and finally crushed it to pieces, which is enough to show how big the difference in strength is. Even Raditz, who had been injured before, was able to ensure his safety during the explosion. Lost. But Sun Wukong gasped and finally fell to the ground, with a big character appearing on his whole body. He has tried his best. The last desperate move consumed all his strength, so now he can't even stand. He wanted to fight again and was unwilling to admit defeat, but the reality was so cruel. Piccolo on the other side is in a similar situation to Sun Wukong. He had already reached his limit, and what he had just hit was all he had. Now that the situation is like this, he seems to have fallen into an abyss. Action, failure. I didn't expect that I, the great demon King Piccolo, would one day become a frog in a well. It's really ridiculous. Quote. Earth is finished. Having the courage to face death, such a mental breakthrough, is actually good for both Piccolo and Sun Wukong. Lin Chuan didn't wait for anything to say or do. Raditz was one step ahead and was excited because he had blocked his special move, and began to show off his power. It was obviously the absolute advantage that made him drift again. Hehehehe, Kakarot, my stupid brother, I have told you long ago that your end has come. Originally, you don't have to die, because as long as you join us, you will be a member of Frieza's Legion. Now that you have given up this great opportunity, you have also brought absolute disaster to the earth. Raditz said as he approached Sun Wukong. That arrogant posture made people feel like the god of death was knocking on the door. Sun Wukong was powerless to refute, Piccolo was powerless, and Sun Gohan kept crying. This Raditz is really a typical bully and shy of the strong. It is also this kind of mother-in-law character that has harmed him. Recalling the scenes in the original work, this guy did invent a lot of pretentious sayings, but it was also this kind of personality that cost him his life. Seeing Raditz going to ravage Sun Wukong, Lin Chuan naturally wouldn't pretend he didn't see it. As long as he really kills Sun Wukong, he will stop him in an instant. As for being attacked by Piccolo and Sun Wukong, he didn't take it to heart at all. To be honest, it was very wise to attack just now without knowing whether we were the enemy or not. Seize the opportunity and kill with one strike. It's a pity that the difference in strength is too big, and Lin Chuan is also confident enough, so he is not afraid at all. In simple terms, when adults are talking, why would they care about two children patting themselves next to them? Only people like Raditz can retaliate for their anger. Moreover, Lin Chuan also had a word in advance, asking Piccolo to attack him. He wanted to see how powerful the demon Guangguang killing cannon was. What's wrong? You don't even have the strength to stand up. What a useless guy. Since your father is so ignorant, then go to hell. I will take your son away and train him for you. When he walked in front of Sun Wukong, Raditz's domineering posture seemed to be that he was afraid that others would not see that he had defeated his younger brother. The weak can only find a sense of existence at this time. Facing the strong, characters like Raditz are dispensable. Stop, Gohan. Run. Once again threatening his son, Sun Wukong didn't know where the power came from. It's like a flashback. This scene shocked Raditz again. After suffering several losses, he retreated 10 meters away when Sun Wukong exploded. I have been cautious from the beginning, fearing that the boat will capsize in the gutter again. What a loser. I can still scare you when you were like this. I have 1,500 combat power points on you, why not give it to a dog, Raditz? In one sentence, this is Lin Chuan's General Raditz. Demeaned to the bottom line. To be honest, their current combat power is probably less than 100. Even if it breaks out again, what level can it reach? Even though Raditz is also injured, he can fully exert his strength with more than 1,000 combat power points. To be frightened by a person whose fighting power has hit rock bottom is really like a dog's life. Needless to say, Raditz is really good at it. He obviously had absolutely crushing strength, and he started with a natural ace, but in the end he was beaten to a pulp by himself, and was counterattacked by Sun Wukong and Piccolo. After hearing Lin Chuan's words, Raditz didn't know what Lin Chuan really meant. He just thought he was being looked down upon and couldn't wipe his face off, feeling extremely unhappy in his heart. Although Lin Chuan's combat power is indeed as high as 5,000 points, everyone is working for King Frieza. Even though his level may be one level lower than others, as a team, the three Saiyans are one of the most capable teams under Frieza. Although I don't know who you are. Which team are you a member of? But, as a soldier of the Legion, there is no need to be sarcastic, right? Everyone, look up and see you, maybe you will have times like this in the future. As he spoke, Raditz suddenly paused, as if something happened to make him stop talking. It wasn't until a while later that he looked stunned and continued, "This time we meet on Earth, it is fate that we meet each other. We are both working for King Frieza. I think you came to Earth to survey whether the Earth is worthy of invasion, right? Quote. It just so happens that you are alone, and your combat power is as high as 5,000 points. How about cooperating with us? Compared to the Earth, our Saiyan team discovered a very valuable planet some time ago. This time I came to the Earth to seek help from this useless brother, just to have more power and seize the time to complete the invasion. If you join, I believe it will be done soon. By then, the credit and benefits will be evenly distributed. After Raditz's long speech, Lin Chuan was surprised for a moment by Raditz's sudden change. You know, he is insulting Raditz without any bottom line. He is not afraid that he will not fight back, but he is afraid that he will not fight back. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to deal with him. As a result, I don't know where Raditz's scheming came from. His temperament suddenly changed drastically and he even said these words to him. There is no doubt that this is recruiting him. They were completely different before and after, and even their eyes changed again. Puzzled. But soon, Lin Chuan saw a subtle red light emitting from Raditz's combat power detector, and then he realized that it seemed that someone behind this guy was passing on the message. It shouldn't be Nappa. After all, although the idiot described in the original book is not stupid, his IQ is indeed not online, and it is absolutely impossible to teach Raditz to say such a thing. So, if it's not Nappa, it must be Vegeta. Unexpectedly, they are far away on the other side of the star, but they are always paying attention to the situation here. Located in an unknown galaxy extremely far away from the solar system. On a gray-black planet of life, two men wearing Frieza Legion combat uniforms were eating the creatures on the planet. Of course, it is eaten after roasting it with the help of fire. There is no doubt that they are Vegeta and Nappa. Originally, Vegeta and Nappa didn't care at all that Raditz went to Earth to find his brother Kakarot. After all, he was just a low-level warrior with a combat power of only 2. Even if he is still alive after growing up, how much fighting power can he have? Cleaning up the battlefield won't help them, right? After all, even people like Raditz are just trash in Vegeta's eyes. More of him is not more, less of him is not much. If they weren't the only Saiyans left now, he would have abandoned them long ago. After learning that Raditz had arrived on Earth, if he and Nappa hadn't already taken over the planet at this moment, he wouldn't have bothered to pay attention. The previous changes are indeed somewhat unexpected. After all, there is a way to control combat power on Earth. But later, when he learned that Raditz was almost killed several times, his anger immediately exploded. In his words, he has really raised a lot of people over the years. It's actually not as good as Kakarot, who was born with only 2 combat power and now has less than 1,000 combat power. No matter what you do, eating comes first. However, for him, Raditz also brought him a special news, that is, there are others going to Earth. Although I don't know who it is, the opponent's combat power is as high as 5,000 points, which shows that the Earth has attracted the attention of Frieza's Legion. The value of such a remote planet is almost 0. No one would come to investigate such a planet that cannot be sold for much money. Vegeta, can you just let Raditz pass the message? The value of that planet is at least worth 100 large life planets rich in minerals. Nappa swallowed the food he was chewing. Go down and speak immediately. It is said that only simple-minded people have well-developed limbs, but Nappa's well-developed limbs are not really as brainless as described in the original novel. He has a brain, just a muscle. It doesn't matter. I just want to see what the other party's reaction is. We are also a member of the Legion, and he was so rude after knowing that Raditz was my subordinate. Who is the captain he leads? I am very curious. Vegeta had a cold and stern light in his eyes, and then said, no matter how bad Raditz is, he is still my subordinate. Not just anyone can bully him. He has his plans, and there must be a purpose for doing this. For him, as long as it has value, that's great. If you are unwilling to cooperate, consider how to handle it after understanding the specific details. Although he has always been ranked among the upper middle class in Frieza's army and is not even considered a top fighter, Vegeta, with a combat power of up to 18,000 points, is not afraid of anyone except Frieza and the Ginyu team. Even when facing Dodoria and Sabo, he always maintained his pride. As arrogant as he is, he finally came to his senses only after experiencing the severe beating on planet Namek in the original work. Earth. Looking at Raditz in front of him, Lin Chuan's expression changed unpredictably. Such a solicitation would probably have been accepted by those surveyors who were really members of Frieza's legion. After all, who wouldn't want the credit that comes to your doorstep? Pity. Whether it was Vegeta's idea or Raditz's plan, the wrong person was used. Lin Chuan was not interested in this kind of thing at all. Looking at Raditz, Lin Chuan went from thinking he was useless to slowly showing a trace of pity. Frankly speaking, Raditz is indeed pitiful. Not only did he have no brilliant achievements in this life, but he died tragically on Earth in the end, and he died at the hands of his own brother. Do you think he is evil? He is indeed quite evil. In order to make Sun Wukong submit, he told Sun Wukong to kill 100 people on Earth and surrender. He even kidnapped his own nephew as a blackmail. In fact, is this really evil? No. In the final analysis, it is most likely that Raditz wanted his younger brother, Sun Wukong, to listen to him in order to show his strength. From coming to the Earth to dying together with Sun Wukong, it can be said that he only killed the farmer who attacked him with a gun. In other words, Raditz died unjustly. As the first boss that just appeared in the first part of the universe, it ended after a new era started. Besides, Raditz's life can only be described as miserable in 2 words. In his early days, he obeyed the king's orders and stayed with Vegeta. It was not until planet Vegeta was destroyed that he became a laborer at the lowest level. Later, he finally found some sense of existence, but he was dragged to death by his younger brother. Although he committed suicide, who can be sure that this was not a plot kill? If Raditz was truly evil and hopeless, then he would not have asked Sun Wukong to kill 100 Earthlings to submit his name, but would have completely destroyed the Earth. With Raditz's strength, it is actually enough. To put it bluntly, Raditz is quite humane. Think about it, Nappa is mindless and cruel, torturing and killing people whenever they disagree. Vegeta's ruthlessness doesn't even spare his loyal teammates like Nappa. In contrast, when Raditz came to Earth, he did not carry out large-scale destruction, but after finding Goku, he mainly focused on persuasion. Even if he was rejected, he would only use coercion and inducement. If it were Nappa or Vegeta, how could he have so many choices? And that's not the saddest part. Before Raditz died, he thought that his sincerity could be exchanged for Vegeta to come to Earth to seize the Dragon Balls and summon Shenron to resurrect him. Life is aggrieved, and death is even more aggrieved. The worst thing about him is that he doesn't even know how miserable he is. From the beginning, he thought about killing Raditz to get tickets to the Z-Warrior Circle, but now he has a little compassion. Lin Chuan was slightly touched. He is a living person, and this is a real world. It's not a game, it's not a plot. His thoughts will continue to change due to encounters and experiences. Staring at Raditz, who was still proudly negotiating terms with him, Lin Chuan really wanted to tell him that he was so obedient, but he was not taken seriously by Vegeta and Nappa at all. Taking a deep breath, Lin Chuan's eyes narrowed and he began to ramble. First of all, my evaluation of you is not simply cynicism. I look down on you from the bottom of my heart. Because this guy seems to have a brain, but he is very brainless. Secondly, on the basis that we are both Saiyans. You have 1,500 combat power points, but you can only perform at this level. You are so weak that you can only ravage your own brother for fun. In my opinion, this is the most useless performance. We Saiyans are supposed to become braver and stronger the more we fight, but you behave so timidly, even cowardly, in front of your brother. Finally, you helped count money after being sold. What a fool. What you said just now was taught to you by Vegeta, who is far away on another planet behind you. Don't you think that your words will bring you the consequences of killing someone? Disaster. This is the Earth, with endless galaxies in the middle. If I want to kill you, if I disagree with you, who can protect you? After finishing speaking, Lin Chuan showed a teasing look. He suddenly changed his original idea and wanted to lend a helping hand to Raditz. Of course, he also needs people to be willing to hold his hand and escape from the abyss. Since Vegeta used him to test and recruit him, he would change Raditz and let him face Vegeta a year later. Raditz vs. Vegeta, what a fun thing to watch. I don't expect Raditz to defeat Vegeta, but let's just say that it shouldn't be a problem for Raditz to defeat Nappa under his training. A series of words reached the ears of everyone present. Not only Raditz was shocked, but Piccolo and Sun Wukong were also shocked. Even Vegeta and Nappa on the other side of the star felt incredible. Nappa stood up in shock, with a look of disbelief on his face. He is also a Saiyan. Over the years, it's not like they haven't visited and investigated, the surviving Saiyans are almost extinct. It's already a miracle that Raditz's brother Kakarot is still alive. Now this guy appears, not only wearing the combat uniform of Frieza's army, but also has 5,000 combat points. What does this mean? There is too much information. You said you are also a Saiyan. Impossible. Logically speaking, there are no other Saiyans except me, Nappa, Vegeta, my stupid brother, and my little brother who lives on Earth. That's right. You are still wearing the combat uniform of Frieza's army. Do you think we are all fools? How can we not know if there are other Saiyans in Frieza's legion? Raditz spoke righteously and vowed. Being questioned for this reason, Lin Chuan knew that his home court was coming. After all, this is the reason for taking the initiative to expose your identity. I'm not afraid to get to the bottom of it, but I'm afraid that people won't care and won't ask. He is a Saiyan, and he must tell it now so that he can better integrate into the world in the future. Immediately, Lin Chuan laughed and responded, haha. There are no absolutes in the world, and many things are just what you think. Besides, you thought of me as a soldier of Frieza's legion. I never said that. I am Frieza's dog. Take a good look at our Saiyan's tail. You probably don't recognize it, Raditz. I'm a Saiyan too. With that said, Lin Chuan immediately released his tail from his waist. Who would have paid attention to this detail before? They were all shocked by Lin Chuan's sudden appearance and display of great strength. Seeing it now, it shocked everyone again. So, you are really our Saiyan. The most shocking person was Raditz, and his tail was the best proof. He stared at Lin Chuan and asked again without hesitation, tell me your name. The name of the Saiyan. It's been more than 20 years. If you didn't ask, I would have almost forgotten it. As he spoke, Lin Chuan's lips quivered. He knew that Vegeta and Nappa behind him also wanted to know who he was, so he said, Taros. But compared to this name, I prefer others to call me Lin Chuan. Forests of woods, rivers of mountains and rivers. After finishing his words, Lin Chuan glanced at Piccolo and Sun Wukong on the other side. Knowing that they were very nervous and worried at this time, he immediately said, you two don't have to be so afraid. I don't come to Earth with any malicious intent. I believe you can also feel that there is no murderous intention in me. Also, you don't need to worry about what Raditz will do. After all, even if he wanted to do it, he wouldn't dare to do it with me here. After the words fell, both Piccolo and Sun Wukong were stunned. Lin Chuan was a bit too direct, which made them difficult to accept and made them even more suspicious. In response to this, Raditz on the opposite side quit. What is your purpose, guy? You are not from Frieza's legion, so why are you wearing this battle uniform? And, do you mean to protect the Earth? Protecting my stupid brother? Are you going to be a traitor to the Saiyans too? After asking several questions at once, Raditz was obviously anxious. He couldn't even understand what was going on with Lin Chuan. He was not a legionnaire, but he wore a combat uniform and came to Earth after him. What a coincidence. Also, this guy obviously wants to protect Kakarot and that Piccolo now. Kakarot, in his opinion, is already a traitor to their Saiyans. His thoughts were confused and he could only wait for Lin Chuan's answer. The method of coercion and inducement can only be used on beings who are weaker than yourself. Raditz did not have the courage to deal with Lin Chuan, whose combat power was as high as 5,000 points. The words of recruitment were so tough before, and it was because of Vegeta's support. So now, I can only question it as a Saiyan. It's just what you think about being a traitor. Of course I have a purpose for coming to Earth, but it's definitely different from yours. As for what you said about protecting the Earth, protecting Kakarot and this Namekian, you were right. I don't intend to let you hurt them. Speaking of which. As he spoke, Lin Chuan narrowed his eyes slightly. Such an expression made Raditz tremble all over and send a chill down his spine. What are you talking about? Speaking of which, don't you think that instead of figuring out my purpose and plan now, or caring about whether I want to protect the Earth and Kakarot and the others, you shouldn't be more worried about your current situation? As he said, Lin Chuan narrowed his eyes. Then he added, According to what you said, you came to Earth to find your brother Kakarot to help you invade other planets, but now it's like this. Not only did you fail to gain the approval of your brother, but you fell into this situation. Quote, I'm afraid that if you return to Vegeta and Nappa now, you won't be treated well from now on, right? In fact, with the arrogant temperament of Vegeta, he will think that you have embarrassed him and kill him directly. You trash. Along with Lin Chuan's critical words, he added what he said before. Raditz was immediately dumbfounded. Yes, what value does he have now? He insisted on coming to Earth and wanted to bring his younger brother Kakarot, but he failed, and was almost killed by his younger brother who was weaker than him. Even if he is not dead, he will definitely not get any benefits if he goes back now. Besides, with his 1,500 combat power points, to put it bluntly, he is essentially dispensable in the team. It has always been the job of cleaning up the battlefield. His face was extremely ugly. Raditz had always considered himself a smart person. He knows that he has always been looked down upon. So he tried to keep a low profile in front of Vegeta and Nappa and didn't speak. If you are weak, you have no right to speak. This is a world of the weak and the strong. Lin Chuan was surprised for a while that Raditz was so serious. From his expression alone, he could see that Raditz knew his situation. It seems that you understand this truth, and that's the best thing. In the end, you are still too useless, with only 1,500 combat points in so many years. It seems that you not only don't practice, but only avoid dangers and live with a lingering breath. Quote, so, now he is not even as good as his biological brother Kakarot. Otherwise, even if there is no chance to become stronger, just because we Saiyans get stronger as we fight, your combat power will be at least 3,000 points higher after so many years of training. As Lin Chuan spoke, he was also calculating how Raditz had come here over the years. Of course, being suppressed by the genius Vegeta and the elite Nappa, he was indeed depressed. As the saying goes, it is not unreasonable for the strong to become stronger and the weak to become weaker. Lin Chuan's criticism was so cruel. Hit the nail on the head. Raditz gritted his teeth, his eyes full of anger. As Saiyans, when each of us was born, God has already determined how high our achievements will be and how big the gap will be between us and certain people. Yes, my combat power is indeed only 1,500 points. But it's not as bad as you said. Do you think I don't want to become stronger? Do you think I am willing to settle for the status quo? Even if your combat power is as high as 5,000 points. Don't insult me like this. This is the voice of Raditz, who has always been fighting against fate. But in his heart, he still believes that talent determines everything. Even though he is a superior warrior, he is only the lowest talent among superior warriors. It is true that the birth combat power reaches 200 points, but there are so many Saiyans who have reached this level. He was able to follow Prince Vegeta because his father, Bardock, was the representative of the lower-level Saiyan warriors. It was an arrangement made by the original king to show off to all the lower-level Saiyans and win people's hearts. Really? Then why can your brother Kakarot do this? Also, I am very sorry to tell you that my combat power when I was born was only 50 points. Raditz's excitement was not there. Lin Chuan didn't have any mood swings, but he answered calmly. Raditz couldn't believe this again. Even Nappa and Vegeta on the other side of the star were even more shocked. The birth combat power is only 50 points, and he is just a low-level warrior. He can actually increase his combat power to 5,000 points. You know, Raditz's birth combat power reached 200 points, but now it is only 1,500 points. Nappa, as a queen from a famous family among superior warriors, an elite warrior. Birth combat power 800 points. It's only 4,000 points so far. Of course, Vegeta wouldn't compare himself. Because Vegeta considers himself a genius, no matter how clever any Saiyan is, there is no way he can compare with him. He was born with 2,000 combat power points, the highest in Saiyan history, and now has 18,000 combat power points. The most powerful Saiyan in history. How on earth did you do it? Talos. No, Lin Chuan. Raditz took a deep breath. He wants to know. As soon as these words came out, even Sun Wukong and Piccolo on the other side pricked up their ears. They also want to know how Lin Chuan became stronger. They were not fools, they naturally understood what Lin Chuan meant. Hearing this, Lin Chuan laughed again. He said so much, which shows that it is still useful to Raditz. Being able to ask this sentence shows that Raditz has shaken his original concept and also desires to become stronger. After thinking for a moment, Lin Chuan said, "The combat power at birth is just an innate advantage and does not represent the limit of future growth. So what if you are a lower-level warrior, like Kakarot or me, whose combat strength is only 2 or 50 points, but with hard work and practice, you can still become stronger. A high starting point doesn't mean you are absolute. A low starting point doesn't mean you are doomed to be a weak person. Let's put it this way, you think you have been working hard, but I'm afraid you don't know what real hard work is. When you think that you have reached your limit, in fact, others have paid 10 times, even 100 times, or even 1,000 times more than you." As Lin Chuan's words gradually came out, Raditz was dumbfounded and his mind was spinning. In this case, even Vegeta and Nappa, who heard it with the help of the contact function of the combat power detector, were greatly stimulated. We are not stupid, we have all gone through hardships and obstacles along the way. However, they have indeed been content with the status quo over the years and have been wasting their time. Because as their combat power reaches a certain peak, it will no longer increase. Even improving 1 point of combat power is extremely difficult. Take the initiative to practice. In their opinion, what if they did it? Well said. So what if I am a lower-level warrior? Even if my birth combat power is only 2, I will not give in easily. As long as I work hard enough, I can conquer anything. Inspired by Lin Chuan's words, Sun Wukong's voice came. Obviously, he agreed very much with Lin Chuan's statement, because that's how he got there step by step. Piccolo also nodded. Even if he didn't speak, he agreed very much. "TCH. Kakarot, do you think you can really surpass my big brother?" "Stop joking." Raditz gritted his teeth angrily. They say they don't believe it and don't want to accept it, but in fact they are shaken in their hearts. Because recalling the previous battle, he indeed seriously underestimated Kakarot, and even developed a hint of fear in the end. If Lin Chuan hadn't appeared, he might have died, so how could he still be here now? At this moment, Lin Chuan stopped talking. Sun Wukong over there had already taken the opportunity to recover, protected his son, and replied firmly, "Although you are really strong, brother, you are not invincible in my opinion. Over the years, Bai and I have although K has been practicing, he is actually not practicing as hard as he did in the early years. This time we have seen a broader world, and our strength will definitely improve by leaps and bounds in the next period of time." "I'm right, Piccolo." Sun Wukong is confident. He is simple-minded and has no evil intentions, and what he says is the truth. "HMPH. There's no need to take me with you. You Saiyans are indeed powerful, but I, the great demon King Piccolo, will surpass you sooner or later. Also, are you a very strong brother? Didn't you almost get killed by my demonic light-killing cannon? A self-righteous guy who doesn't even know how to practice to become stronger and just relies on talent to grow. How stupid." After finishing his words, Piccolo's eyes fell on Lin Chuan again. He knows that his real target is him. At least he was able to hold his magic-piercing light-killing cannon with one hand, which went beyond the limit and could kill Raditz. So understated and unscathed. What is this concept? The gap in strength is like an insurmountable chasm. Under Piccolo's sarcasm, veins appeared on Raditz's forehead, but he did not have an attack. Getting angry is inevitable, but it is indeed the case. And he mainly heard Piccolo's evaluation of him, which meant that he was obviously talented, but he didn't cherish it in practice. Who could blame him for being such a weakling? If he, Raditz, had really practiced harder these years, or tried to become stronger. Maybe, it really is not the case now. Seeing that Lin Chuan's combat power of 50 points had been increased to 5,000 points, Raditz seemed to see a brilliant future waving to him. At this moment, everything and all the thoughts in the past have become farts. Compared with increasing strength, what is nothing? After some communication, under the guidance of Lin Chuan's words, the original deadlock was brought to life, which not only invisibly resolved the crisis of brothers fighting to the death, but also opened a new chapter. Lin Chuan changed the original plot development trajectory and also changed the fate of everyone present. Neither Sun Wukong nor Raditz needs to die, and Raditz will no longer suffer the joint counterattack of Sun Wukong and Piccolo. Of course, the premise is that Raditz doesn't take action against them either. As long as Raditz doesn't do anything that harms the Earth or the people on Earth, even if he stays on Earth from now on, he won't be targeted. To be honest, it is very unexpected that things have developed to this result. But in a sense, everyone is happy. After the exchange with Lin Chuan, Raditz was stimulated and put aside everything else. After abandoning everything in the past, he even disobeyed the orders given to him by Vegeta and Nappa on the other side of the star. He also didn't want to be an ant at the mercy of Vegeta and Nappa. So, he wants to become stronger. As long as he also has strong strength, as long as his combat effectiveness is doubled and doubled. At that time, not to mention Nappa, even Prince Vegeta can no longer treat him as a dispensable existence. It was the achievements of Lin Chuan and Kakarot that gave Raditz hope. Talent and hard work should go hand in hand. Raditz believes that his talent is higher, so the intensity he can achieve through hard work will be higher. Kakarot was born with a combat power of only 2, but through his own efforts and training, he reached a combat power of over 1,000, and even threatened to surpass himself in a short time. Lin Chuan's birth power was only 50 points, but now he has 5,000 points of combat power, which is more powerful than Nappa. Raditz is not stupid, nor is he an idiot. He felt that if he practiced hard like Lin Chuan and Kakarot, with his starting point and his original talent, he would at least have a combat power exceeding 5,000 points. It might even exceed 10,000 points. Of course, what Raditz sees at this time is only the good side. He doesn't know that there are too many ways to become stronger, and finding the best and most suitable method for you is the key. Otherwise, if you practice hard and work hard, you will naturally get very little improvement. Otherwise, a person can become stronger just by practicing casually. It took Lin Chuan more than 20 years, using limited conditions to carry out countless kinds of training, to increase his combat power to 15,000 points. Lin Chuan will not tell others this. Raditz only thought that his combat power was only 5,000 points. If he knew how strong he was now, he would probably be dumbfounded. And if he knew that Lin Chuan had not only reached 15,000 combat power points with the help of his hard work, but could now increase his combat power by 1 point per second, he would be scared to death. Speaking of current strength, including these 20 minutes, Lin Chuan's combat power at this time has increased from 16,680 points to 18,060 points based on the unlimited combat power system that increases combat power by 1 per second. An improvement of 1380 points. This combat power has already surpassed that of Vegeta in the current era. And in about half an hour, his combat power will break through to the 20,000 point mark. Of course, in the era of the big universe, having a combat power of over 10,000 is the foundation. A combat force of tens of thousands is nothing more than ants. But with a combat power of tens of thousands, he would be considered an absolute powerhouse on any planet. Unless it's on those super planets or forbidden planets. It should be said that Lin Chuan had never really felt the feeling of improvement every second until now. I simply am a time traveler and have gone through more than 20 years of suffering and training. Otherwise, I will really lose my way. At this moment, thinking of the legendary Super Saiyan Broly in this world, Lin Chuan suddenly had a feeling of empathy. Chuan Chao's existence is getting stronger every moment. No wonder Broly goes crazy because he can't control his power, and can easily go crazy. The slightest mood swing can cause you to lose control. To improve your strength and temper your state of mind, you must catch up. It is true that it will not affect him at the moment, but if things go on like this, Lin Chuan's state of mind will not improve. As his strength continues to grow, he may fall into a state of madness at any time. The situation stabilized. Piccolo used the Namekian's self-healing ability to restore his broken arm. This kind of cool operation shocked Sun Wukong and Raditz. Even though Sun Wukong knew Piccolo's ability, seeing it now, he found it very incredible. Piccolo wouldn't mind this kind of gaze. He seized the opportunity at this time, faced Lin Chuan, and asked, "You said before that I am a Namekian. What does this mean?" When the words came out, Piccolo's expression became solemn. The matter of Raditz was not a foregone conclusion before, but now he would be a fool if he didn't ask. With an above-the-line IQ and courage and resourcefulness, Piccolo's questions also attracted the attention of Sun Wukong and Raditz. Especially Sun Wukong. After he found out that he was an alien, it was difficult for him to accept it. Now that he heard that Piccolo was also an alien, he started to look forward to it. In fact, if we really want to talk about aliens, Piccolo looks like one. It seems that you don't know your identity yet. Speaking of which, your Namekian appearance is unique in the entire universe, and your clan has very strange powers, just like your rebirth of a broken limb before. Ability. Looking at Piccolo, Lin Chuan explained casually with a smile. The reason why Piccolo's identity was exposed in the previous words was to make him realize his identity first. They wouldn't have to wait until a year later to find out about their life experiences through Vegeta. Piccolo was silent. At the same time, the old god in the Temple of Heaven, who had been watching here, was also lost in thought. It was only at this moment that they realized their identity, and they were filled with emotion and confusion. Just imagine, you have always considered yourself a member of life on Earth, and suddenly one day an alien comes and tells you that you are from a certain star. What would you do? After all, Piccolo's ability to accept is extremely strong, so he didn't show any unwillingness to believe it. He laughed inwardly, but after realizing that he was also an alien, he felt relieved. In the past, being bound to a planet resulted in great restrictions on what you could see and hear. Now, he has a new goal. I would like to ask, does my home planet still exist? Piccolo said with a vague light in his eyes. As soon as these words came out, Lin Chuan nodded without hesitation. Luckily, Namek was not destroyed despite a catastrophe many years ago. Unlike Earth, Namek is surrounded by 3 stars. The sky is not as blue as Earth, and the environment is not as good. And because it has 3 stars, Namek only has daytime and no night. As Lin Chuan spoke out the information about planet Namek in his memory, these words were also remembered by Piccolo. To him, this is his home planet after all. After hearing these descriptions, Sun Wukong was shocked. There is no night, only day, so people don't have to sleep anymore. At this time, the nervous person thought about this problem. It should be said that he is indeed Sun Wukong. Chapter 11. Okay, I only know so much about planet Namek. Maybe you will have the opportunity to go back in the near future. Now, let me first talk about the purpose of my coming to Earth. I believe you are also concerned about it now, right? I can't come for no reason. As he said that, Lin Chuan's eyes wandered around a few people with a smile. Finally, it fell on Raditz. Now Raditz has been successfully deceived by him, but if that were the case, Vegeta and Nappa might not come to Earth. Because Raditz is dispensable to them. Even if something like this happens on Earth, he still exists. But for Vegeta and Nappa, this is not enough for them to set off to Earth immediately. You must know that they still have a super planet to occupy. In the original work, they would abandon that planet and come to Earth entirely because of the Dragon Balls. They were attracted because of the Dragon Balls. Later, I learned that the Dragon Balls were created by the Namekians, so Frieza confirmed the news and went to the Namek planet to invade and steal the Dragon Balls. Thus, the chapter of the Emperor of the Universe truly begins. Because of Lin Chuan's sudden seriousness, Raditz frowned. Curiosity was inevitable. Including Vegeta and Nappa on the other side of the Interstellar, who were already angry and ready to go to Earth to cause trouble, all pricked up their ears. Raditz's betrayal and disobedience made them extremely angry, and they felt that they had raised this loser all these years in vain, and others had instigated rebellion with just a few words. For them, even if what Lin Chuan said makes sense, how can a person's strength be improved so easily? Furthermore, so what if it has 5,000 combat power points? Not only was Vegeta dismissive, but Nappa was just surprised. At this point, Sun Wukong, Sun Wuhan, and Piccolo were all standing ready. They were deeply afraid that Lin Chuan would reveal a purpose that was unacceptable to them. At this moment, there is no doubt that Lin Chuan is the most threatening existence. Don't be so nervous. Through some special news, I learned that there is something on Earth that can fulfill other people's wishes. That thing should be called Dragon Ball. I need to use the Dragon Ball of the Earth to fulfill a wish of mine. I wonder if you can lend it to me. After the words fell, Lin Chuan still deliberately organized the language. On the one hand, Vegeta's combat power detectors are highly monitored by Frieza's army. Once it is too obvious and directly involves the Namekians, then maybe Vegeta and Nappa will not come to the Earth, but directly go to the Namek planet to cause trouble. Therefore, it is only said that the Earth has something that can grant wishes, called Dragon Balls. In this case, it will be the same as the original route, only telling the existence of the Dragon Balls that grant wishes. Even if Raditz's combat power detector is highly monitored by Frieza's army, Frieza will never take any action until there is no definite information to prove that the Dragon Balls can really grant wishes. After all, he is the Emperor of the universe. What world has he not seen before? There are too many legends and stories circulating on countless planets in the universe, and most of them are just toys to deceive children. If a universe emperor rushes for any piece of news, then the universe emperor would be too busy. In the original plot, Frieza should have known about the existence of Dragon Balls on Earth with the help of Raditz's power detector at the beginning. He just kept waiting until Vegeta came to Earth to verify the accuracy of the news. Using Vegeta to go to Earth, he confirmed that the Dragon Balls could indeed grant wishes, and then he took action. It's just that he didn't go to the Earth, but knew that the Dragon Balls were created by the Namekians through the information obtained by Vegeta, so he went straight to the Namek planet. After hearing what Lin Chuan said, Sun Wukong and Piccolo looked at each other and expressed surprise. They couldn't believe it. They didn't expect Lin Chuan, a Saiyan from alien space, to actually know that there were Dragon Balls on Earth. Raditz on the other side was immediately shocked. Make a wish come true. Dragon Ball. His worldview was once again expanded. Is this true? Such a thing actually exists in this world. Raditz couldn't help but ask with enthusiasm in his eyes. If true, he also wants to fulfill his wish. Although I don't know where you knew it from, but now that it's been revealed, we can't hide it anymore. Sun Wukong said calmly, but he wouldn't just ignore it. The Dragon Ball can make a wish for Lin Chuan, but if Lin Chuan's wish is to harm the world, or to benefit himself at the expense of others, or to wish for immortality, then no matter how powerful Lin Chuan is, he will definitely stop it. Just as he was about to say something more, Lin Chuan saw that the effect had been achieved and raised his hand to stop him. Wait a moment for now. There is something I need to do first. After saying that, he looked at Raditz again. His eyes widened, and he used his energy to destroy the combat power detector Raditz was wearing. This happened, and several people were stunned. I was negligent just now. I hope what I just said was not heard by Vegeta and Nappa behind you. Lin Chuan's words made Raditz, Sun Wukong, and Piccolo tremble again. Only then did I understand why Lin Chuan did this. Although I took the initiative to cut off the contact with Vegeta just now, the communication function is monitored by Vegeta and has a listening function. Raditz panicked for a moment. Nappa didn't scare him that much. Besides, Lin Chuan's combat power was as high as 5,000 points, so he didn't need to be afraid of Nappa, whose combat power was only 4,000 points. But he knows best how terrifying Vegeta is. There are things like Dragon Balls on Earth that can make wishes come true. What could be more tempting than this? Hey. What do you mean? Could it be that? Piccolo asked immediately after seeing this situation. Even a smart person can guess it. It seems that there is no way to avoid it. Because of my outspokenness, the Earth may soon be invaded by two other Saiyans. Lin Chuan said and looked up at the sky. If you do a complete show and give up halfway, then you have really failed. Those two Saiyans, are they the Nappa and Vegeta you just mentioned? Are they stronger than you? Sun Wukong asked. He was extremely excited now and was completely unaware of the seriousness of the situation. The Sun Wuhan beside him is also still young. He just feels that his father is beside him and he is not afraid of anything. TCH. Kakarot, so you don't understand anything. Let's not talk about Nappa for now. Vegeta is the prince of our clan. He is known as the most talented warrior in the history of Saiyans. Combat power, up to 18,000 points. Before Lin Chuan could answer, Raditz couldn't wait to answer. 18,000 points. Sun Wukong was shocked. Piccolo's face turned green. No, wrong. Piccolo's face turned purple. Raditz is so strong with 1,500 points. Lin Chuan, who had a combat power of 5,000 points, could already ravage them with one hand. So what is the concept of 18,000 combat power points? Piccolo couldn't imagine it. Suddenly he felt top-heavy. At this moment, located on the planet where Vegeta and Nappa are. Everything that happened on the Earth, including the last message about wish fulfillment, was heard by them through the listening function of the combat power detector. The Earth has things that can fulfill other people's wishes. Let them be shocked and even more incredible. The mere Earth could actually have such a product. That Lin Chuan went to Earth to get this thing and realize his wish. Look at the situation, that lower-level soldier Talos destroyed Raditz's detector. Not only Kakarot, but now even Raditz, that loser, has become a traitor. Vegeta, what should we do next? Go to Earth and catch them all. Nappa became fierce, like a mad beast. The momentum is surging and the appearance is ferocious. To call him stupid is actually not stupid at all. Because he finally said that he would go to Earth to catch all the traitors. In fact, it was also for the Dragon Balls that could grant wishes. But he couldn't say it openly, he could only use purging traitors as the reason. Moreover, he could only go with Vegeta's permission. Where is Vegeta at this time? His expression was very calm, but it was so calm that it felt unnatural. Nappa, who was familiar with Vegeta, didn't dare to say anything more and stood aside obediently. Because he knew that Vegeta in this appearance was the most terrifying. HMPH, It seems that they realized that their conversations can be heard by us. That Talos is getting more and more interesting. Nappa, you don't need to hide it like this. You have been with me for so many years. You understand me and I understand you. Although I don't know whether the wish-fulfilling Dragon Ball is real or fake, but because that guy didn't take this prince seriously and even instigated Raditz's rebellion, I have to bear my prince's wrath. It's been so long since I've had any serious activities that even a guy like Raditz has forgotten how terrifying this prince is. After saying that, Vegeta showed an extremely cruel smile on his face. Let's go to this Earth. Vegeta made a decision. He has already imagined in his mind what will happen after he goes to Earth. He will torture everyone who disobeys him to death. The so-called effort brought by that guy from Talos can make him stronger. When a true genius like him arrives on Earth, he will be completely crushed by him. He wanted to see how much of that vain hope there was. As for the Dragon Ball that can grant wishes, it must be his. Eternal life. Vegeta was already planning in his mind. For a long time, he was subordinate to Frieza. He has always been among the Legion, and his status is neither high nor low. As the Prince of the Saiyans, he had already guessed that the Saiyan clan would be wiped out by Frieza, and he already had a rebellious heart. It's just that there has never been a chance, nor is there enough opportunity for him to rebel. If he could gain eternal life by going to Earth this time, then Frieza wouldn't be so scary to him. Frieza can be unafraid, and when the time comes, he can completely suppress Dodoria, Sabo, and those from the Ginyu Force. Leaving to Earth now, but didn't we plan it well? If that planet is discovered by others, we won't even be able to drink soup. Nobelius hesitated, and suddenly thought of their original arrangement, and asked. Hearing this, Vegeta sneered. In front of something that can fulfill your wishes, do you think so-called wealth is still important? Such a planet is rare, but compared to eternal life, it's nothing, Nappa. Vegeta stood up and strolled towards the spaceship. Eternal life. Nappa still didn't react. Of course, as Saiyans, if we can get long-term life, then we can enjoy the fun of fighting forever. With a sneer, Vegeta opened the spaceship and got in. While explaining the target, Vegeta was also testing Nappa. It would be great if only he, Vegeta, could get eternal life. Let Nappa know this purpose, and he can't wait to take action after arriving on Earth. When the time comes, let him take the lead, and after he has figured out the situation on Earth, he will finally take action resolutely to solve all the troubles. So that's it. Eternal life, such a temptation is indeed worth more than anything else. Nappa understood immediately and quickly got into the spaceship. Let those three traitors survive for a while. Vegeta narrowed his eyes, his words full of ridicule. It will take less than a year to get to the Earth from here. Although it is a long time, you can arrive as soon as you wake up. When the time comes, please let me crush those three lower-level warriors, Vegeta. A cruel smile appeared on Nappa's face. Then it depends on your performance. Vegeta sneered without objecting. The next second he started the spaceship, he also closed his eyes. Space navigation is boring, and the fastest way for them to spend this gap period is to sleep. Here, Vegeta and Nappa have locked the Earth as their target and are driving the spaceship there. At this same time, located somewhere in the vast sea of stars in the southern galaxy, a huge disc-shaped space battleship is traveling at super light speed. This spaceship is one of the main ships belonging to Frieza's Legion. In the central area of the spaceship, the Universe Emperor Frieza was sitting perfectly on his suspended stroller. This time in the southern galaxy, he captured another 1,000 planets in one fell swoop, and even spread the power of his Frieza Legion's second army. Although he, Frieza, has always considered himself the Emperor of the universe, in recent years, due to the lack of support from the God of Destruction in his early years, his power can only live in the northern galaxy. Therefore, Nanda Galaxy's move this time can be regarded as a direct expansion of its own power, and it has also raised his status to a higher level. He has been planning a bigger territory. The reason why it has been unable to reach out to the southern galaxy for decades is that, firstly, the power of the demon world cannot be underestimated. Secondly, the southern galaxy is not like the northern galaxy. The situation is chaotic and there are no less than thousands of forces. Fortunately, the leader of the demon world, Dapora, has been missing for many years, which has led to chaos and constant disputes within the demon world. This time he got the exact information and learned that the internal forces of the southern galaxy had been fighting for years, so he decided that the opportunity was not to be missed and led the second legion of hundreds of millions of soldiers to plunder. It's a battle to decide the outcome. From now on, Frieza's army will march straight into the southern galaxy, and his territory will become larger and larger. Holding a glass of red wine elegantly in his hand, Frieza was still recalling the gains from this battle. It had been rare in many years for him to be so happy. While enjoying the wine, he admired the scene of the universe. Of course, what the naked eye sees is just a straight line drawn out by darkness and countless bright lights. But in his eyes, everything he saw was his territory. Dodoria, how long will it take for us to return to our base camp on the border of the North Galaxy? After drinking the red wine that looked like blood in the glass, Frieza threw the glass to the side of the soldier who was responsible for daily life. Just turning around so casually made the soldiers operating the spaceship sweat all over their heads and dare not say a word. Frieza has always been moody. Once he answers an answer that he is not satisfied with, he will be killed. Therefore, such tasks are usually answered by Frieza's right-hand men like Dodoria and Sabo. The Emperor of the Universe is so domineering and cruel. Go back to King Frieza. According to the original plan, it would have taken us more than 10 days to leave the southern galaxy and enter the northern galaxy. However, the pilots of this battleship are all well-trained elites, so it is 10 days earlier than originally planned. I believe we can reach planet B-117 in less than 3 days. Under Dodoria's explanation, Frieza smiled with satisfaction and nodded. Space navigation is the most boring thing. Even Frieza, the Emperor of the Universe, has a long life, but he will still find it annoying. Most people's answers would touch Frieza's inverse scale, because they can't grasp the point and can't speak. But people like Dodoria don't. After following Frieza for who knows how many years, how could he not know how to report his trip? Just when Frieza was about to find some topics to talk about, suddenly, the door of the information department on the other side opened. A short soldier wearing a scientific research information uniform came in and came to Sabo's side and whispered a few words. As the information came into his ears, Sabo, who had been staying quietly aside, couldn't help but exclaimed. "What, are you sure you're listening correctly?" Sabo asked with a serious look. This voice made the soldier who reported the report turn pale with fright. Frieza was caught and asked curiously, "What's wrong?" Sabo, looking at your startled look, "This doesn't look like you." Report to King Frieza, "I just heard the news from Vegeta through the detector." Forget it, let you explain it. Sabo's eyes narrowed, knowing that he couldn't explain it for a while, so he ordered to the soldier. After hearing the order, the soldier took a deep breath and immediately said, "See King Frieza. The general situation is this. I have been responsible for monitoring the intelligence of the Saiyan team, and just now, I heard that Vegeta seems to have discovered something extraordinary. On a planet called Earth, a Dragon Ball appeared that could grant wishes. Now, Vegeta and Nappa are on their way to Earth. Based on the distance, they will arrive in about a year. By the way, two new Saiyans have appeared on the other side of the earth. One of them is the younger brother of Raditz, who has a combat power of 1500 points, and the other one, according to the description heard through the monitoring, is not only wearing the combat uniform of our legion, and the combat power is as high as 5000 points. His name is Lin Chuan, and the Saiyan name is Talos. After Xiao Bing spoke in one breath, no one in the entire central area dared to answer. After all, the master didn't say anything, so what qualifications did his subordinates have to express their opinions first? Oh. It's really interesting. I have only been away for less than a year, and our little Vegeta has brought me some interesting news. Two new Saiyans, one of whom is still hidden in our legion, has a combat power of 5000 points. A gleam flashed in Frieza's eyes. The next second, he focused his attention on the Dragon Ball that can grant wishes. Are you sure you heard correctly? What kind of Dragon Ball is that on the earth? Can wishes come true? Yes, King Frieza. That's what Vegeta said, saying that he would go to Earth to get the Dragon Balls and gain eternal life, and then he could enjoy the fun of fighting forever. The soldier did not dare to neglect, telling the truth, answer. These words made Frieza burst into laughter. On the side, Dodoria finally couldn't help it and questioned, really or not, is there really something in the universe that can fulfill wishes and gain eternal life? Whether it is true or not, that boy Vegeta knows this. You haven't reported the stuff yet, are you planning to keep it for yourself? It should be so. Sabo answered the question intentionally or unintentionally. They have always disliked Vegeta. Although his strength is weaker than theirs, he has always been self-righteous. If it weren't for King Frieza keeping Vegeta captive, they would have suppressed him long ago. Ho. It doesn't matter. Maybe little Vegeta just wants to help me test whether it's true or not. Besides, didn't the news get passed on? The Dragon Ball that can make wishes come true happens to be that I have finished the first phase of the Southern Galaxy conquest. There is enough time. I also have a wish that I want to realize. I wonder if that thing can help me fulfill my wish. As Frieza finished speaking, everyone took a deep breath. Dodoria took a deep breath to calm down as quickly as possible. He almost hurt himself by talking too much. Where is that planet called Earth? Frieza asked, facing Sabo. As soon as these words came out, there was no one left to stand. However, the short and fat soldier seemed to be taking credit and said directly, King Frieza, my subordinates have investigated the information about the Earth clearly. The planet called Earth is located at the end of the Northern Galaxy, and its coordinates are Laniakai. Sub-Super Galaxy Cluster, a small galaxy called the Solar System. If we go directly at the speed of our main ship, we can reach it in almost a year. It won't be too long behind Vegeta, and we can even catch up. Maybe. After the words fell, the scene became even quieter. However, just when everyone thought that this little soldier was going to suffer, Frieza stared at the soldier with interest. You did well. What's your name, soldier? Subordinate Sorby. Sorby responded respectfully. If Lin Chuan were here, he would definitely recognize this guy. Because he is the leader of the remnants of Frieza's army who only appeared in the Dragon Ball Super era. He also used the Dragon Balls to resurrect Frieza, which led to the subsequent development of the plot. Of course, at this moment, Sorby is just a soldier in Frieza's army collecting information. Sob, if there is a chance in the future, give Sorby more opportunities. After nodding, Frieza said nothing more. He used his mind to control the baby chair to slide to the central console. At this moment, the staff had already pulled up the star map so that Frieza could see it clearly. 1 year, it's not too long. Now that Vegeta has started taking action, let's change the destination and let's go directly to Earth to find out. I hope my little Vegeta will not disappoint me. Oh. Frieza narrowed his eyes, murderous intent surging. Above the Earth. At this moment, the atmosphere was extremely dull. After learning how terrifying the two upcoming Saiyans were, Sun Wukong and Piccolo were dumbfounded. The scene was extremely silent, so quiet that it made people feel uncomfortable. There is no doubt that when their combat power data is only a few hundred points, and when they try their best, they are only over 1,000, the gap in combat power of several hundred points is something they cannot easily bridge. Compared with Lin Chuan, who had a combat power of 5,000 points, it was even more different. The current combat power of 18,000 points directly made them realize how terrifying the enemy this time was. No matter how confident Sun Wukong and Piccolo are, no matter how many hardships and obstacles they have experienced from the past to the present, they have managed to avoid danger every time. But this time, it's different from before. Just standing aside, Lin Chuan did not take the initiative to speak to break the current atmosphere. Now is not the time for him to intervene, but for them to react on their own and develop fighting spirit. Otherwise, even if he changes the plot, it will be counterproductive. After being silent for a long time, Sun Wukong took a deep breath and came back to his senses. He comforted the restless son beside him, and then took the initiative to ask, "Brother, how long will it take for the Saiyan named Vegeta to arrive on our Earth? How long will it take to reach the Earth?" When Sun Wukong asked this question, he undoubtedly chose to fight head-on. What happened this time had made him understand that he had no choice but to face the difficulties and had no choice. Watching the Earth being invaded and hiding yourself. He can't do it. Piccolo on the side frowned, his ears pricked up, and his eyes were full of rigor. Naturally, he is not the kind of person who will sit still and wait for death, so he can understand Sun Wukong's thoughts. After all, even if the numerical value is indeed scary, he is not the kind of person who will be easily frightened by a numerical value. Shocked. Although the enemy is powerful, he will not just surrender and wait to die. Based on the time I came to Earth, it would only take a year at most to reach Earth from the Ordita Nebula where Vegeta and the others are. It might even be faster, Raditz said with a livid face. At this time, he obviously didn't realize what his brother meant. 1 year, not bad. Then we still have time to practice. After getting the answer, the expression on Sun Wukong's face relaxed a little, and he breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. If it takes a few days or 10 days and a half to reach Earth, then he really has no other choice. Because even if they have the time to practice, they may have no problem surpassing their eldest brother Raditz, but they will definitely not be able to compare with Lin Chuan. If you can't even reach 5,000 combat points, how can you fight against an enemy with 18,000 points? If the equivalent combat power value cannot even exceed 10,000, they will not even be qualified to challenge the opponent. Not even a fraction of others. However, if they have a year, at least they still have time to exercise. On the side, Piccolo couldn't help but nodded when he heard Sun Wukong's words. He knew that Sun Wukong had similar thoughts to him. It has to be said that although Piccolo in this era has not completely gotten rid of the Big Devil's personality, he is already changing. The evolution of the situation forced him to change himself to adapt to this new era. After hearing Sun Wukong's words and seeing Sun Wukong clenching his fists, looking full of expectation for him, Raditz was extremely shocked. "Hey, Kakarot, you don't really think that with a year of training, you can reverse the situation and defeat Vegeta and the others?" Raditz's mouth twitched, unable to accept that his brother was so stupid. How would he know that his brother, driven by fate, would really do it in the future? It's just that no one would believe such an outrageous thing until it happened. You can't say that. In my opinion, you can't give up just because the enemy is too powerful, right? 1 year is not long, but it is not short either. Even if I cannot reach such a high level of strength in the end, at least I have tried hard and will not regret it. Sun Wukong's answer was so firm. The words are also full of encouragement. No wonder, he will be the protagonist and the backbone of the Z Warrior group. Even though sometimes he is stupid and sometimes quite selfish, in the final analysis, he is always the one who moves forward bravely and resists all dangers. That's right, and just because others can't do it, doesn't mean we can't do it. Over the years, our strength has been limited by our vision and has been unable to improve. It's different now. We have seen the existence of a higher realm, so 1 year is enough for us to become stronger. Piccolo answered. He stood next to Sun Wukong, and even Sun Wukong was extremely surprised for a moment. But Sun Wukong was very happy, because he didn't kill Piccolo at first, just hoping that Piccolo could fight alongside him one day. Although I still had selfish motives at the beginning, so that I could always have a competitor in the future. But Sun Wukong does want to be friends with Piccolo. Listening to what the two said, Raditz was so angry that he laughed out loud. I admit that hard work may really make us stronger. After all, the example of this guy Talos is here. But, Kakarot, you are too naive. And you, the Namekian, are too self-righteous. Before you say such big words, let's first increase your combat power of less than 1,000 points. You're not even qualified to fight me alone, let alone Vegeta. Even Nappa, whose combat power is only 4,000 points, can ravage you to death with a wave of his hand. Raditz had given up arguing and was telling the facts. He wanted to let them know through these words that they can have imagination, but don't think so wonderfully. To increase from 1,000 to 10,000 is a fantasy. However, Raditz would not know how firm Sun Wukong and Piccolo's beliefs would be. You guys who start giving up on yourself and saying it's impossible before you even try hard, stop being alarmist here. If you are afraid, just run away with your tail between your legs. Or, you can go back and surrender, and then you can invade the Earth together and see if we can defeat you. Piccolo's retort was filled with the idea that I, Piccolo, the great demon king, will definitely become stronger to show you. Hearing this, Raditz's anger burst out uncontrollably. He thought that he was speaking very harmoniously and peacefully now, but this Namekian was just looking for death. It's you who can't recognize reality. How do you, who only live on Earth, know how big the difference in combat effectiveness is? Forget it, Talos. Your combat power is 5,000 points, you tell me. After saying this, Raditz closed his mouth and even reached out to slap his forehead to show how much pressure he was feeling. How big? Hearing Raditz's words, he also watched the entire process of the three people's argument. Lin Chuan, who had been eating melon the whole time, smiled. His goal has been achieved, so there is no need to hide it anymore. In the final analysis, the three people are still struggling with the 18,000 point combat power at this time. 18,000 points, after the strength level really reaches the standard, is really nothing. Lin Chuan did not answer immediately, but all four people looked over, including the 4-year-old Sun Wuhan who was as timid as a mouse. Seeing Lin Chuan's calmness, Raditz, who originally wanted Lin Chuan to explain, suddenly felt numb. He even doubted that Lin Chuan also had Kakarot's thoughts, right? He felt that was simply unrealistic. Hey, you guys have to say something. They don't know, don't you, who has a combat power of 5,000 points, not know how terrifying a combat power of 18,000 points is. Even if you do have a way, you should be afraid of Vegeta, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't take the initiative to destroy the detector. Raditz spoke vigorously, as if to ask Lin Chuan to stand on the same front as him. Obviously, in his opinion, the Earth will be destroyed in 1 year, and if they continue to stay on the Earth, they will all be finished. And this is even more of a headache for Raditz now. The spaceship was destroyed by Kakarot's son. This also means that he can't leave the Earth. Even if Lin Chuan's spaceship is there, it's probably a one-person spacecraft. How to say? As the words came to his lips, Lin Chuan's thoughts kept spinning. He looked at Raditz, then at Son Goku, Piccolo and Son Gohan. Immediately afterwards, Lin Chuan took a few steps to one side. While walking, Lin Chuan also said, "One thing Raditz said is indeed right. A combat power of 18,000 points is not as simple as you think, nor is it so easy to surpass. Actually, for you, let alone reaching over 10,000 combat power points in the short term, even Nappa, whose combat power is only 4,000 points, is not something you can easily surpass. 1 year is indeed a long time, but it is also very short. Find a way to increase your strength to the highest level within an effective period of time. But according to my estimation, no matter how hard you try, you will only be able to improve your cultivation through ordinary means in the end. You can stand shoulder to shoulder with Nappa, unless you can discover a more amazing cultivation method." After saying this, Lin Chuan turned around and faced the four people. After listening to Lin Chuan's words, Sun Wukong and Piccolo made a plan in their minds. In fact, they themselves also know that if they really want to exceed 10,000 combat points, or even exceed 18,000 points, that is nothing more than a fantasy. But they won't admit defeat. After all, they didn't do it. Who knows what the result will be? Raditz raised his head with an arrogant look. Just when he was about to criticize Kakarot and Piccolo, Lin Chuan didn't give him a chance. Just listen to Lin Chuan say again. Of course, for you, let alone 18,000 combat power points, even Nappa with 4,000 combat power points is an extremely terrifying existence. But for me, 18,000 points of combat power, is it very strong? Lin Chuan said the ridiculing words. Lin Chuan narrowed his eyes, and the unfathomable look on his face made several people stunned at the same time. Especially Raditz, he couldn't understand what Lin Chuan meant. Wait, you mean, your combat power is more than 5,000 points? You guy, can you also control your own combat power? After saying that, Raditz opened his mouth, with a look of horror on his face that could not be concealed. Without hesitation, Lin Chuan took off the combat power detector he was wearing and threw it to Raditz. This thing can indeed detect a person's combat power index. However, the value is dead, but the person is alive. Once you learn how to control your own strength and breath changes, this thing will be useless. And from the beginning, I only slightly mobilized my aura, letting you see that my combat power reached 5,000 points. As he spoke, Lin Chuan's lips curled up in an evil way, and his confident and awe-inspiring look shocked everyone. Raditz stared at Lin Chuan. Sun Wukong and Piccolo on the side took a deep breath and tried hard to suppress the shock in their hearts. Isn't 5,000 points of combat power all he has? How strong is this guy? Listening to his tone, there is also disdain for 18,000 combat power points. I am afraid that it may exceed this value. Piccolo was suspicious in his heart. He vaguely realized that Lin Chuan's true strength level was far beyond their imagination. Even the so-called Vegeta was far from his opponent. Otherwise, knowing that the other party will attack in a year's time and showing insufficient strength, at least show a trace of nervousness. So, you actually have the absolute strength to resist that Vegeta? Sun Wukong asked with a trembling voice and a face full of expectation. If this is the case, then the crisis on the Earth can be solved. To be honest, his horizons were really open today. There were so many emotions inside that he couldn't even count them. It can be said that it is a mixture of 5 flavors that is difficult to describe. No, I don't believe it. No matter how powerful you are, there is no way you can compare to Vegeta. If you are confident that you can surpass Vegeta, then why are you afraid that Vegeta will hear the news about the Dragon Balls and destroy my combat power detector? At this time, Raditz looked at Lin Chuan with eyes that changed again and again. Unknowingly, a special fear surged into my heart. I didn't say that I was afraid that Vegeta and the others would come to Earth after hearing the news, so I destroyed the detector. I only said that it would be inevitable for them to come to Earth. Raditz, you are a smart person, so you should know that your combat power detector can be monitored by Vegeta, then your detector may be monitored by Frieza. Unlike the combat power detector I gave you, your detector should be bound, right? After giving Raditz a reminder, Lin Chuan said no more. You mean, hiss. For a moment, it was like falling into an ice cellar, and Raditz's body began to tremble. If Lin Chuan's prediction is correct, then their every move is being monitored. If Frieza really gets the news, it will be a different story. The Saiyans, even Vegeta with a combat power of 18,000 points, could only grovel in front of Frieza. Raditz was thankful that Lin Chuan could react immediately. He didn't know, not even Lin Chuan, that the news had been passed on and Frieza was already heading towards Earth. However, according to the plot, Frieza will definitely not be able to reach Earth smoothly. When the time comes, Frieza will learn that the Dragon Balls were created by the Namekians due to the information collected by Vegeta on Earth, so he will change his target midway to the Namek planet. Sun Wukong and Piccolo did not fully understand the cryptic exchange between Lin Chuan and Raditz. But Piccolo and Sun Wukong were not stupid. They immediately realized that besides Vegeta, there were other beings who might also be eyeing the Earth. And that existence should be the Frieza I heard several times. It's a weird and hard to imagine name. The exact information summarized from the words heard is that Raditz and the others belong to the so-called Frieza Legion, and this Frieza should be the leader. Brother, there's Ta. Lo, forget it, it's easier for me to call you Lin Chuan. Who is that Frieza you are talking about? Seeing how cautious you are, could it be that that guy's combat power is higher than 18,000 points? Sun Wukong couldn't help but ask. Only outspoken people are eager to know the truth. If it were someone else, they would not ask so directly, but would wait for Lin Chuan and Raditz to take the initiative to tell them, just like Piccolo. Piccolo is more stable than Sun Wukong. He knows that neither of them can fully react to the current situation. It is very easy to lose oneself when it involves a wider field at this time. But when Sun Wukong asked, Piccolo couldn't possibly pretend he didn't hear it and didn't care. 18,000 points, haha. Kakarot, you have to know that although we Saiyans claim to be a fighting nation in the universe, we always think of ourselves as a superior race. However, in front of the truly terrifying Emperor of the universe, even ants are considered not going up. The universe is too big. Not to mention our strength, even our Prince Vegeta, who is said to be the most talented warrior in the history of Saiyans, has a combat power of up to 18,000 points. He is not even considered an elite in front of King Frieza, can only be regarded as dispensable. You on Earth are like frogs at the bottom of a well, unable to understand. The directness of Raditz's answer shocked Sun Wukong and Piccolo again. You, the Emperor of the universe. A combat power of 18,000 points is just a little guy. How can you imagine Sun Wukong and Piccolo? This simply subverted the worldview they had just established. I originally thought that Vegeta with 18,000 points was already a peerless warrior. Now the person they thought was a peerless strongman was not even considered an elite in front of the Emperor of the universe. Can you imagine the horror? Even you are somewhat self-aware, but you can easily expand the horror you imagine 100 times, 1,000 times, or even 10,000 times. Raditz glanced at Sun Wukong and Piccolo with disdain. At this time, he could only rely on knowing more to gain a sense of presence in front of them. Lin Chuan laughed at the sight and said, actually, you don't need to scare them like this. Frieza is indeed scary, but not to the extent you said. As soon as the words came out, Raditz felt dizzy. He was going crazy. If Lin Chuan had concealed his true combat power before, he would still be willing to believe it, but he could not accept Frieza's comments like this. Are you crazy? Do you know what you are talking about? That's Frieza. Looking at Lin Chuan, Raditz wanted Lin Chuan's answer. Sun Wukong and Piccolo looked at Lin Chuan again. At this time, they are like two bottles on the sea, they can only drift with the tide. Given your position, you naturally know a lot. But at the same time, your vision also limits you. As the Emperor of the universe, Frieza is indeed powerful, but you only know that he is powerful, but you don't know how strong he is. So, you just think that he is an unbeatable existence. I can tell you now, Frieza's combat index. After saying that, Lin Chuan paused. It's too early to talk about Frieza's information now. But now that it's mentioned, it's unavoidable. Anyway, not to mention that Frieza can transform, it only depends on his ultimate fighting power. In this way, it may be possible for Sun Wukong, Piccolo, and even the Z warriors of this era to see further, improve their strength faster, and become stronger. Just imagine when Vegeta and Nappa come to Earth a year later and see that the strength of the Z warriors generally exceeds 10,000, or even tens of thousands, what will their expressions be like? Lin Chuan is looking forward to Vegeta and Nappa who are mentally broken. You said you knew Frieza's combat power. Even Vegeta didn't know about such a confidential matter. How did you know about it? Raditz asked. Suspect. No. He felt that Lin Chuan should not lie to others, otherwise, the communication would not be like this. How do I know? Is this important? As far as I know, Frieza's combat power should be 530,000 points. After saying that, the teasing in Lin Chuan's eyes became even heavier. 530,000 points. For any existence in this era, it is an astronomical value. Whether it is the Z warriors of Earth or Vegeta with a combat power of 18,000 points, it is unimaginable. Raditz's mind went blank, Sun Wukong and Piccolo's eyes widened and their mouths opened wide. This is the Emperor of the universe. Lin Chuan was very satisfied with the changes in their expressions. After all, they couldn't look up to those with thousands of combat points, let alone 530,000. From 1,500 points, to the 5,000 points that Lin Chuan showed before, to 18,000 points, and finally to 530,000 points. The worldview collapsed and then was established and then collapsed. It went back and forth 3 or 4 times. If the people present were not warriors in fighting form with extremely strong receptive abilities, they would probably be frightened out of their wits. Frankly speaking, if Lin Chuan was not a time traveler and knew the plot of the original work, even if he continued to practice and became strong enough, he would be shocked by this value. After all, you have fought hard for decades and only have a fighting strength of tens of thousands. How can you compare with a fighting strength of hundreds of thousands? When an egg hits a stone, it breaks into pieces. Of course, even Lin Chuan now would still feel fear when facing Frieza. You can only avoid the edge temporarily and hide yourself. In any case, his current combat power is only close to 20,000 points. Even Dodoria and Sabo beside Frieza can torture him to death. Fortunately, he also has enough time to practice and become stronger, and he also has an unlimited combat power improvement system. It is true that he cannot face Frieza now, but a year later, Lin Chuan will have absolute confidence to crush Frieza. At the same time, the god of the heavenly temple, who had been monitoring the situation here, turned purple and was breathing extremely heavily. In this short period of time, he heard too many unimaginable things. As a god, he also realized that he was completely eliminated by the times. Originally, God Piccolo thought that even if the stronger Saiyan arrived on Earth, Piccolo and Sun Wukong might be able to fight with the help of his arrangements after a year of hard training. Even if he is defeated, he has a last resort, voluntarily assimilating with Piccolo and helping Piccolo become complete to improve his strength. But now, the emperors of the universe have appeared. Even if all the trump cards are revealed, can they compare? Their combat value is only a few hundred points. A combat power of several thousand is unimaginable, and a combat power of tens of thousands is a luxury. Hundreds of thousands of combat power, it's simply indescribable. Boom. Single quote. Just when the scene was so quiet that there was no other sound except the wind. Suddenly, a wave of sound exploded from the horizon and came. The sudden sound attracted everyone's attention, and they shifted their gaze and looked over. They are now worried about being unable to escape the depressing atmosphere. If an outsider intervenes, the topic can be temporarily transferred. In the distant sky, a very fast beige jet was seen breaking through the clouds and flying towards this side. On this jet, there is a special mark engraved on it, which should be known to everyone on Earth. Because this is the unique logo of Magnum Capsule Company. TCH, the unsightly Earthlings are here, and we can't stay here any longer. Taros, my spaceship has been destroyed. Is your spaceship still there? Raditz naturally had no idea who the visitor was. He just felt upset and wanted to find a place to quietly think about life. In addition, he also needs to figure out one thing, that is, the Dragon Balls that can grant wishes. Can all wishes come true, and are they true or false? If it were true, he would really want to fight for it. After all, who wouldn't have a wish? I'm sorry to tell you that although the spaceship I boarded was not completely broken, it was damaged due to this space voyage. If you want to use my spaceship to escape from the Earth, you can put away this idea. Giving Raditz an accurate answer, Lin Chuan's eyes remained focused on the jet. It's Bulma, Krillin, and teacher Wu Tian. Through the sense of breath, Sun Wukong quickly knew who the visitor was and said aloud. Of course, without him having to say anything, Lin Chuan could guess that the three auras in the jet must be Bulma, Kame Sennin, and Krillin. The plot of the original book is that they are worried about the situation here, so Bulma brings Kame Sen and Krillin to help. According to the original trajectory, when they arrived, Sun Wukong should be on the verge of death, and Raditz was already dead. Now, the situation is completely different from the original. After Raditz knew that the person who came was an acquaintance of his brother's, and seeing that Lin Chuan didn't take any action, he simply calmed down and made a new plan. In this unfamiliar place on Earth, he only knew Kakarot, Kakarot's son, Lin Chuan, and Piccolo. Piccolo was naturally ignored by him because he was not a Saiyan. If he wants to live on Earth in the future, he must stay close to Lin Chuan and Kakarot. After all, he doesn't know how to make himself stronger. The only one who can help him increase his strength is Lin Chuan. Boom. Single quote. As the jet landed, a puff of dust kicked up. Kame Sento got off the jet first, with a solemn look on his face. Finally, there was Bulma, who was hiding behind in fear, surveying the current situation. Immediately, the three arriving people noticed Lin Chuan. Because this person was someone they had never seen before, and he was wearing a combat uniform similar to Raditz's, they immediately concluded that this was a Saiyan who was with Raditz. The aura of this Saiyan seems calm and ordinary, but it also reveals an unfathomable terror. It's much more terrifying than that Raditz. Now, what is going on? The battle is over. Or should I say, the perceptive Kame Sennin kept making guesses in his mind. Not sure what the situation was, he couldn't make a conclusion and couldn't completely relax. Wukong, Gohan, and Piccolo, it's great that you guys are okay. Has the enemy changed from 1 to 2? Teacher Wushan and I are here to help you. Krillin mistakenly thought that the battle was not over yet, stepped forward decisively and stood beside Sun Wukong. Looking at his posture, he looked like he was going to fight to the death. They had already made up their minds before coming. If they really needed to die to save the Earth, Krillin and Kame Sento would not look back. Seeing this situation, Raditz first sneered, confirming that the 3 people who came were all Earthlings he had met before, and then hearing the words of the little bald Klin, he couldn't help teasing him, what a ignorant Earthling. That tail didn't knock you apart before, yet you still dared to come in front of me and talk nonsense. Let me see, The combat power is 206 points. How dare you make such a noise with a mere 200 points of combat power? Such contemptuous words made Klin furious and gritted his teeth. It was just that he was angry, and Klin really didn't dare to do anything. As Raditz said, his combat power is so low that even Goku and Piccolo can't take advantage of them. How can he be an opponent? Raditz was delighted to see this kind of anger that he dared not speak out, and his expression became even more violent, which gave Klin a strong sense of oppression and even caused dense beads of sweat to break out on his head. Okay, brother, stop threatening Klin. Although Klin's strength is indeed not as good as yours, he is not as unbearable as you say. Sun Wukong stood up to clear Klin's name. The senior brother who grew up together since childhood, Klin can be said to be his most important partner. Even before the era of the big universe, Krillin could be said to be the person he cherished the most. As the saying goes, Klin sacrifices to heaven, his magic power is boundless. If Raditz killed Krillin, Sun Wukong might actually explode and kill Raditz. The most classic sacrifice to the sky in the original work, Krillin was killed by Frieza, and Sun Wukong directly transformed into a Super Saiyan. TCH. Raditz spat disdainfully, turned around and said nothing more. He also didn't want to get too involved with the Earth Ants. At this time, Krillin was confused. Not only Krillin, Kame Sen and Bulma were also dumbfounded. It was obvious that the conversation between the two parties and the current situation made them incredible. Isn't it a fight to the death? Isn't it a battle to defend the Earth? Why did you call me brother? Raditz obviously listened. And what's that look in Piccolo's eyes? Klin's head was full of questions, and he cast his eyes on Sun Wukong, wanting to get the answer. The same goes for Kame Sen and Bulma. The thing is like this. After a few minutes, under the joint explanation of Sun Wukong and Piccolo, the 3 of them finally understood. To summarize 2 points. First, Raditz is no longer their enemy and has turned from darkness to light. The other Saiyan named Lin Chuan Taros is currently on their side. Secondly, 2 Saiyans who are 10 times or 20 times more powerful than Raditz will arrive on Earth in 1 year. Wukong. So, those 2 Saiyans a year later came for the Dragon Balls. And they must be enemies. Under the simple description of the Combat Power Index, Krillin has been beaten by that with 18,000 combat power points. I was so frightened that I couldn't speak clearly. Raditz's 1,500 combat power points are terrifying enough. Isn't this going to destroy the Earth? It's okay, Klin, don't we still have a year to practice? At that time, I will definitely be stronger than now. Moreover, even if I can't beat them then, Lin Chuan's strength can definitely defeat that Vegeta. Sun Wukong said and turned his eyes. Everyone's attention fell on Lin Chuan again. Everyone looked at Lin Chuan with such eager eyes, as if they wanted to get Lin Chuan's affirmative answer. Only Bulma's eyes were different from the others, and had another meaning. Noticing that everyone's eyes were focused again, and this time Bulma, Krillin and Kame Sennin were also included, Lin Chuan couldn't help but chuckle. This is when the home court has shifted back to itself. To be honest, Sun Wukong completely regarded him as his backer, which Lin Chuan did not expect. After all, even if he showed strength and goodwill, and told them so much information at the same time, he had only just arrived on Earth. How should I put it? Although this is what he wants to see, Lin Chuan is obviously somewhat resistant. This resistance comes from being used. Because Monkey King is not really trusting him, but because they are not enemies now, people want to use him to stabilize the overall situation. To say that the early Sun Wukong had an average IQ and could not use his brain at all. This is bullshit. The smile that seemed to be intentional or unintentional, and the eyes were clear, but their thoughts were clear. You have said so, I can promise you that you will not watch the Earth being destroyed without taking action. Anyway, this planet does have what I need, and the environment is good and suitable for habitation. However, don't pray that I will directly suppress Vegeta and the others. If we are really defeated in a year, I will protect the Earth from destruction by then. This is the condition for me to borrow the Earth Dragon Balls and temporarily live on the Earth. How? After the words fell, Lin Chuan also circled back to borrowing the Dragon Ball. Since it was being used, Lin Chuan naturally had to make his position clear. As soon as these words came out, it was regarded as complying with Sun Wukong's words. Your words are enough. The Dragon Balls can be used by you, but you cannot wish for immortality or harm the world. Otherwise, no matter what, we won't help you find the Dragon Ball. Sun Wukong said the ugly things first. He had long realized that Lin Chuan would mention this, but he had changed the story before because of the information about Vegeta and Frieza. It is inevitable to come back now. Call him smart, he is indeed smart, but he is also a bit stupid. What he said was so clear. If Lin Chuan acted with him and directly went back on his word when he made a wish, what could he do? Sun Wukong should be glad that he is really not an enemy and would not make that kind of wish. Don't worry, that kind of wish doesn't have any temptation for me. Besides, I think the Dragon Balls on the Earth also have ability limits, right? Once they exceed the ability range, there is no way to realize it. Nodding in agreement, Lin Chuan took the opportunity to look at Piccolo said, actually, I was a little curious about how the Dragon Balls that grant wishes on Earth came from before. Now that I see you, a Namekian, I know it. You should have created the Dragon Balls, right? It is rumored that the Namekians have many strange powers. Your ability to restore limbs is one of them, and making Dragon Balls is also one of them. After saying that, Lin Chuan narrowed his eyes. I said this deliberately to let Namek take the stage first, and at the same time make everyone here realize that there are Dragon Balls on Namek. You are indeed right, but you are also wrong. I did not create the Dragon Balls. The field I am good at is fighting. Looking at Lin Chuan, Piccolo's answer was very direct and unruly. Even though he is weak in strength, the arrogance of the great demon King Piccolo is still there. Really, it seems that you are a fighting Namekian. However, your strength is indeed a bit weak, because the combat power of normal fighting Namekians is generally above 2,000 points. Lin Chuan said. He himself had forgotten whether this value was accurate, but according to the development of the plot, the combat-type Namekians have the combat power to kill senior soldiers of Frieza's legion, and they can also control their own power to explode instantly. In my memory, there was a Namekian named Nelu who was deeply impressed. Because he was the first being on Namek to confront Frieza head-on. The combat power is as high as 42,000 points. After hearing what Lin Chuan said, the group of people became uneasy again. Especially Krillin, Kame Sennin and Bulma who had just arrived and understood part of the situation. Who would have thought that Piccolo is also an alien? According to the news that the fighting power of the combat-type Namekians is generally above 2,000 points, doesn't this mean that Big Demon Piccolo can only run wild on the Earth, and he will be a scumbag when he returns to the Namek planet? Piccolo clenched his fists, feeling resentment and unwillingness in his heart. Think about it, those tribesmen you have never seen have more than 2,000 combat power points, what about him? With the help of the magic-piercing light-killing cannon to transcend the limit, it is less than 1,500 points. Looking back now, it is true that Master Tianshan told me when he was guiding me in my practice. Piccolo was a very powerful existence before you were separated from Master Tianshan. If you change back again now if you are alone, your strength may suddenly improve by leaps and bounds, and it is not impossible for your combat power to exceed a few thousand points. Sun Wukong said suddenly. This is considered a secret. No one on Earth knows the details except the gods Piccolo, Bobo, Sun Wukong and Piccolo. HMPH. Stop making up your mind about me. Do you think I'm the kind of person who can get close to you? Sun Wukong. Don't think that you are your friend just because I fought side by side with you. I'm still Big Piccolo Demon King. When the time comes to defeat those two Saiyans, it will be your turn. Piccolo said harshly. At that moment, he no longer hesitated. After looking at everyone present one by one, he finally soared into the sky. Piccolo is gone. No one stopped this situation. Lin Chuan was immediately stunned. By the way, did Piccolo forget to take someone with him? His eyes involuntarily stayed on Sun Wuhan for a while. Without Piccolo's teachings, would Sun Wuhan still be like the original? What the hell, you've been fooling around for a long time, and you seem to have misled the most important part of the plot. Without Sun Gohan, could Piccolo change as quickly as in the original? Just about to say something else. At this moment, Sun Wukong suddenly raised his head and looked at the sky in the distance. He exclaimed, Lord God, it turns out that you have been watching the situation here. Sun Wukong's sudden words startled everyone present, including Lin Chuan. Although he knew the development of the plot and knew that the gods had this ability, he did not expect to intervene at this time. No one interrupted the communication between Sun Wukong and the god. After a long time, Sun Wukong showed a look of surprise on his face and spoke, Just now, Lord God used sound transmission to communicate with me. He meant that he wanted us to go to the Temple of Heaven together. He had something important to say. You have to tell us face to face. Similarly, I also invited you and Lin Chuan, big brother. He said that although you are Saiyans from an alien planet, since you have turned enemies into friends, and you will also live on the earth in the future, I hope you can go together. In the Temple of Heaven, the most important thing is to practice together and fight against the enemies that will come in a year. As Sun Wukong conveyed the words of the god, the atmosphere changed again. No longer as serious as before, nor as solemn. Perhaps everything has been explained clearly, and everyone understands what is going on now, so after broadening their horizons, even though the gods have appeared now, they can no longer shock the people present. Of course, one person is still in the clouds. This person is naturally Raditz. The title of God made him dumbfounded. The word God has too broad a scope. Kakarot, are you serious? God, is there such an existence as the legendary God on a planet like Earth? Raditz asked urgently. At this time, thinking back to the previous conversation between Kakarot and Piccolo, his brain cells began to burn. Finally, we came to the conclusion that the Namekian and the so-called God were originally one body, but for some reason they became two people. In other words, that God is also a Namekian. Raditz was a little numb. He found that what he saw and heard today had subverted his imagination. Now another Namekian God appeared. What does it mean? After all, this setting is just like a bug in this world. God is the god of a planet. Moreover, not every planet has the existence of gods. Only special planets have the birth of gods. Otherwise, there are countless gods on the countless planets in the Dragon Ball world. It can only be said that whether a planet will have the birth of a god depends first on the development history of the planet, and secondly on the life conditions of the planet. Finally, of course, it depends on whether it has the inheritance of gods. According to alien forces, the Earth is small. But the Earth is not big, but it is involved in all areas. Not only is there a place connected to the Underworld, but there are also people on duty in the Underworld. The Earth is even connected to many special planes, even areas like the Demon World are bordered. There are indeed gods on our Earth. However, I don't know how they are different from the gods in your imagination, brother. Sun Wukong nodded and replied. Immediately afterwards, no matter how shocked Raditz was, he looked at Krillin, Kame Sento, and Bulma on the side. At this time, before he could take the initiative to speak, Klin and Kame Senin were already sighing with emotion. Unexpectedly, Lord God already knows about the current situation. So, does he also want to guide us in our practice? Kling said with some excitement. In the early years, Wukong practiced under the guidance of the gods, and his strength increased dramatically. Although times are different now, in his eyes, gods are still gods and they are superior. Since Master Tianjin has made a plan, let's go together. It's a pity that Yamcha and Tianjin Fan have disappeared, otherwise, alas. Kamezenrin said and couldn't help but sigh. He breathed a sigh of relief. Both are martial arts masters and warriors who protect the earth. At this time, Yamcha and Tianjin Rice are worthy of their great responsibilities in the eyes of Kame Sennin. At least it's better than this old man. The ship of time is still moving forward, but he clearly knows that he has already disembarked. Even if we get on the boat at this time, it will be too late. Speaking of which, I wanted to ask before, but was interrupted by the sudden arrival of my eldest brother. As for Tianjin Fan, according to his character, he should travel around the world to practice, right? Where is Yamcha? Does Bulma know? Is there any way now we can be contacted? Sun Wukong muttered and suddenly looked at Bulma. In their group, Bulma has been with Yamcha. He originally thought that he could see Yamcha this time when he went to the Turtle Fairy house. Unexpectedly, he only saw Bulma. Don't mention it, I don't know whether that guy is dead or alive, Hearing Sun Wukong's questioning, Bulma snorted and turned away. The eldest lady's temper exploded, and she looked like she was of no use to anyone. Now that the situation has developed to this point, she can actually put aside the small things in the past. Perhaps because the plot was changed by Lin Chuan, Sun Wukong refused to die, and the current situation was not particularly bad, so Bulma did not put aside her little emotions to inform Yamcha like in the original work. In Lin Chuan's eyes, this situation was an opportunity. In the early stages of the Dragon Ball plot, Bulma has been having a relationship with Yamcha that is not a love affair. Due to various factors, the relationship between the two was first love but not like first love, so their relationship was completely different from that of ordinary couples. In the final analysis, they are two most inappropriate people, but they came together by accident. And this love lasted for more than 10 years. Others don't know, but as a time traveler, how could Lin Chuan not know the inside story? In fact, it was the inner trouble that caused Bulma to be reluctant to leave her. She was always giving Yamcha a chance to change her ways, and she was also waiting for Yamcha to turn around. After all, Bulma in the early days was so innocent that she just wanted to find a Prince Charming who was strong, handsome, and caring and protective of her. Yamcha was the first capable and good-looking man to appear by her side. After becoming her boyfriend, she decided that this was the man she wanted to spend her whole life with. Therefore, even though she was betrayed by Yamcha several times, she finally gave Yamcha a chance. But as a result, Yamcha got worse and worse again and then completely transformed into a playboy. Calculating Yamcha's life, he never got a wife and had a child until the end, and even his life was extremely bleak. Talking about the relationship, Yamcha was also the first Z warrior to be eliminated. After the Super Era, he was even forgotten. Sun Wukong would rather choose Kame Sennin to participate in the Tournament of Power, and never thought of letting him participate. In fact, if Yamcha really had some brains, or was a man, restrained his temper a little, and worked harder, Bulma would never be snatched away by Vegeta. For Bulma, she will not change easily. After more than 10 years of inner struggle, she finally became completely disappointed with Yamcha. Later, the fateful Vegeta appeared in her life. Based on this situation, the relationship between Bulma and Yamcha has completely broken down at this time, right? If it hadn't been for Sun Wukong's death in the original work, I'm afraid Yamcha would never have had the chance to be forgiven by Bulma. Speaking of which, it was also at this time that the relationship between Yamcha and Bulma became strangers. After all, what happened next? Even if Bulma forgives Yamcha, the two parties will have to be separated for nearly 2 years because of the Saiyan invasion and Yamcha's death. Lin Chuan thought to himself, and made a criticism. Recalling the plot of the original work, is Yamcha miserable? Sad indeed, but he did find it himself. Those who are weak in strength but eager to express themselves will always be the first to be frustrated in the end. In this case, we have to go first. As for Tianjin Fan and Yamcha, we will find a way to contact them after meeting Lord Tianshan. Sun Wukong said. There is no way to summon the companions from the past in a short period of time, and that's all it can do now. Wait until the next direction is determined, and then find a way to inform you. In Sun Wukong's view, whether it's Tianjin Rice or Yamuti, he is still someone he can rely on at this time. Unlike after the Great Universe Era, when the Earth's artificial human era came, everyone except the Saiyans, including Piccolo, were gradually eliminated. Even if Sun Wukong wanted to rely on him, he couldn't. This was also a turning point in a real sense. From then on, the Saiyan family was the only one. In fact, is it true that Earthlings or other planets are inferior to Saiyans? This is certainly true in the case of transformation. But really, if they had the same opportunities, training methods, and no cheats like transformation, other Z warriors would be just as good. Just like when Sun Wukong went to practice with the King of the North for the first time, the warriors on Earth relied solely on the training that Sun Wukong had done, and their combat power exceeded 1,000 points, reaching nearly 2,000 points. Piccolo even used his own training to reach more than 3,000 combat power points. Besides, Sun Wukong learned the Kaio Fist and the Energy Bomb under the guidance of the North Kaio, and practiced under 10 times the gravity, increasing his combat power to 8,000 points. Later we went to Tianjin Rice, Dumplings, Yamcha, Piccolo and others. No matter who they were, their combat strength exceeded 10,000 in a short period of time, and even reached the level of tens of thousands, including the dead Ginyu Special Forces members, were severely defeated by them. All in all, it's not that the qualifications are not enough, but that there are not enough opportunities, and the aura of the protagonist is too bright. Thinking about the later eras, after the Saiyans became the main fighting force, they continued to advance in transformation. The warriors who were not Saiyans had no transformation or new development. Even Piccolo, who had assimilated with the gods, were completely eliminated. Thinking of this, as a time traveler, Lin Chuan deeply understood everything, but he could only sigh. After all, he was a Saiyan in this life, and becoming a Super Saiyan is his primary goal in the future. TCH, Kakarot, why don't you ask my opinion? Do you want to go? Raditz suddenly shouted, interrupting Sun Wukong's train of thought, and at the same time, making Sun Wukong embarrassed. He really didn't ask other people's opinions, he just thought about himself and wanted everyone to go together. Others looked at Raditz cautiously, fearing that this guy would do something wrong again. To Krillin, Kame Sento, and Bulma, Raditz is an intruder. Even if they are in this situation now and have turned enemies into friends, they still resist instinctively. Just like Piccolo, even though Piccolo and Sun Wukong have joined forces to attack at this time, the fear brought by Piccolo will still not dissipate easily. In the original work, it was not until a year later that this grudge was completely eliminated. Therefore, in the final analysis, we still have to stand on the same front, cooperate with each other, and understand each other to resolve grievances. Brother, don't you also want to become stronger? If you go, you can get the guidance of Master Tianshan to practice. The strength I have now is the result of practice along the way, plus the guidance of Master Tianshan a few years ago. Sun Wukong said his IQ is indeed a bit higher than expected. I know how to use cultivation to deceive this big brother who I just met. HMPH, you mean, that so-called Namekian god can guide me to become stronger? Stop joking. With a combat power of less than 1,000 points, what is there to say? Raditz said he was tough verbally, but he actually accepted it in his heart. He didn't give Sun Wukong a chance to refute. He turned his attention to Lin Chuan and asked, Talos, what do you mean? All eyes were once again focused on Lin Chuan. I don't care, but after hearing so many words, I'm quite interested. What's the harm in meeting him? Maybe it's really good, Lin Chuan said while keeping a smile. With his words, Raditz no longer hesitated. It is equivalent to walking down the steps and directly saying, then take a walk. Sun Wukong and others nodded to each other after hearing this. Raditz and Lin Chuan both agreed, so there was nothing else to worry about. Bulma, I leave Gohan to you. Taking your aircraft will allow him to have a good rest. This kid is also tired, Sun Wukong said as he handed Son Gohan to Bulma. He has somersault clouds, can perform aerial dance, and can fly by himself. Of course, he could take his son with him, but due to the injuries he suffered during the previous battle and the fact that the child was still young, it was better to be more stable. Facts have proved that Sun Wukong at this time is not only thinking about himself, he is also considering everything comprehensively. Don't worry, leave it to me. Besides, if they all go, I will also have to send Klin and teacher Wu Tian there. However, my aircraft may not be able to fly to the temple where the gods live. At most, it can only be sent to Kalen Tower. Bulma took Son Gohan's little hand and said at the same time. Little Gohan was not against Bulma, so he didn't make any fuss. Klin and Kame Sento laughed sheepishly. One of them is a martial arts master, but he doesn't even know how to dance in the sky. One is capable of flying, but he is not proficient in it at all. He has not practiced flying much in these years. After arriving at Kalen Tower, Lord God will arrange for Mr. Bobo to come down and pick us up. After saying this, Sun Wukong summoned his somersault cloud. It should be said that in this era, the strength of Z warriors has just begun, and even Sun Wukong does not realize the importance of Wukong. It wasn't until the Saiyan invasion that everyone began to practice this skill seriously. That's all. Led by Sun Wukong and Bulma's aircraft, Lin Chuan and Raditz followed closely and headed to the location of the Earth Temple. Along the way, Raditz often complained that the speed was too slow. There's nothing we can do about it. It's not that Sun Wukong can't be fast, but that Bulma's Earth aircraft is not advanced yet, so its speed is average. Speaking of which, in fact, for people on Earth, it is already extraordinary that civilian aircraft can break the speed of sound. But compared to a strong person who can run thousands of meters or tens of thousands of meters per second, it is naturally slower. Speaking of which, how high is your combat power? What you said is clear and logical, and you have so much information, but you haven't revealed your true strength. I don't know how he suddenly thought of this. Raditz he didn't hide it and asked directly. During the flight, the distance between the two was very close, so Lin Chuan could hear clearly. Want to know how powerful he is in combat? Lin Chuan couldn't help but smile. You will know later. At least, he is much stronger than that guy Vegeta. Lin Chuan didn't go too far. At this moment, he realized what stage the combat power value had reached, and opened the system plug-in panel. Host: Lin Chuan. Age: 25. Height: 185 cm. Weight: 75 kg. Combat Power Index: 19,450 points. The current level of the system: Level 1. Automatically hanging up. Combat Power +1 per second. I remember that before, it only exceeded 18,000 points. As time goes by, it is now only 550 points away from breaking through 20,000 combat points. 550 points, which means that in just 9 minutes, he can reach the next level. Chapter 21. Time passes little by little. For Raditz, he was growing impatient. The speed was too slow and he didn't know how far the destination was. He could do nothing but follow. His lack of patience and eagerness for success were also caused by the pressure in his life over the years. Of course, with Lin Chuan here, even if Raditz was unhappy, he could only endure it. No one said anything. What could he do? Not to mention anything else, he now regards Lin Chuan as the only way for him to become stronger. If any god could guide him to practice and become stronger, he thought that was impossible. What if a god of Earth is really a god? If he was really awesome, then Kakarot would not be what he is now, and he would not even have 1,000 combat power. Lin Chuan is different. Everyone admits that he is stronger than Vegeta, so there is no need to worry about how strong he is. It would be even more promising to be able to double his combat power in a short period of time with his help, or even increase it to 3,000 to 5,000 points in a year. Cross the plains, cross a sea, until you enter the primeval forest with lush vegetation. Time, counting from the time of departure, has passed for more than half an hour. The reason why Lin Chuan was not impatient was that he also took advantage of this time to experience the increase in strength brought by the unlimited combat power improvement system. Combat power +1 per second. Although after seeing too much, phantoms appeared in his eyes, which made him a little numb. But the growth of one's own strength, one level up every few minutes, is really enjoyable. Today, Lin Chuan's combat power index has reached 21,675 points. In just over 37 minutes, the combat power increased by 2,225 points. It can be said that after exceeding 20,000 combat power points, Lin Chuan felt a broader field. His combat power used to hover around 15,000 points, and it was always difficult to make any progress. Compared with now, it was like the sky and the earth. No wonder, in the original work, Dodoria's 22,000 combat power points are enough to crush Vegeta and Chuyi, who have 18,000 combat power points. Now Lin Chuan just feels that the current self can ravage the previous 18,000 point combat power. Not to mention the strength it had at 15,000 points in the past. Brother, and Lin Chuan, we are here. The voice of Sun Wukong rang out. The speed that was originally flying at a rapid speed dropped sharply again. Looking around, deep in the endless forest, there is a stone pillar standing there that reaches the sky. There is no doubt that this is the Kalanta of Earth. When Dragon Ball appeared in the early stages of the plot, it was so incredible and mysterious. Only later, he no longer appeared on the screen and was forgotten by many people. Everyone's impression of the Kalen Tower rests on the fairy beans of the cat fairy on the top of the tower. To be honest, the existence of Kalen Tower was originally set up as a way for martial artists to hone their strength and practice. One after another fell from the sky. Lin Chuan didn't say anything. Raditz couldn't wait to shout out, "Is it finally here? Is this the so-called god? Stop kidding Kakarot, aren't you talking about the Namekians? This earthling's combat effectiveness is only 50 points. No, brother, the gods are temples that live on the clouds. This is the warrior who protects the holy land of Kalanta, named Bra." Sun Wukong stood up and explained, "I really miss you. Speaking of which, I haven't seen him for many years. Come here." Afterwards, he greeted Bra and the protectors of the Holy Land. After revealing their identity and situation, Bra and the others obviously lowered their guard. After all, in their minds, Sun Wukong is the brave man who successfully challenged Kalanta, and he even accepted the call of God a few years ago and became the messenger of God. Revisiting the old place, not only Sun Wukong, but also Krillin and Kame Sennin were full of emotions. Especially Kame Sennin. When he thought about what he did when he was young at the top of the tower, he couldn't help but blush and felt extremely embarrassed. "I just hope that when I see the god this time, I won't be reminded of these embarrassing things. Are you waiting here now for Mr. Bobo to come down and pick us up?" Wukong. Klin stood next to Sun Wukong and asked. He was still somewhat worried, his eyes constantly wandering over Lin Chuan and Raditz. His character was such that Sun Wukong understood it, but he didn't take it seriously and said, "Don't worry about Klin. In addition, Lord God has already sensed our arrival just now, so Mr. Bobo will be down soon. By the way, speaking of which, during the last martial arts conference, Klin, did you tell me that you challenged Kalen Tower and succeeded?" Sun Wukong's sudden question made Klin a little angry. "What, you really don't listen to what others say, and you answered me seriously at that time. Not only me, but also Tianjin Rice, Dumplings, and Yamuti all succeeded in the challenge, and we all also met Carlin on the top of the tower." "Immortal." Krillin rolled his eyes and said. Such an answer made Sun Wukong scratch his head and laugh in embarrassment. Sun Wukong's idea is that if he remembers wrongly and Klin has not challenged Kalen Tower, then he can give it a try. After all, this is a good practice. But now that it's successful, that's another matter. In fact, with Klin's current strength, it is indeed not difficult to challenge this. After all, he has more than 200 combat power points, and that's not all Klin has. The waiting time didn't last long. In less than 2 minutes, a shadow appeared in the sky. It was Bobo controlling the magic carpet, and it quickly descended to the ground. Fighting power, 1030 points. The first person to speak was Raditz again. The moment Bobo arrived in front of him, the combat power detector on his head reported Bobo's combat power value, which directly subverted Raditz's cognition. There are actually people on Earth, a lower-level planet, whose combat power exceeds 1000 points. For a while, he began to be suspicious of the gods above. Before, I seemed to have underestimated the other party. As soon as he said these words, everyone except Lin Chuan was shocked. Bobo's combat power is as high as 1030 points. What is this concept? Sun Wukong's combat power is only a few hundred points. A full burst can break through 1000 points, but that's only for a short period of time. Is this true? Mr. Bobo, you actually have such powerful fighting power? Sun Wukong asked in surprise. In this regard, Bobo did not have any emotional fluctuations. Bobo didn't know either. It turns out that Bobo's combat power is more than 1000 points. This kind of performance is really in line with Bobo's setting. Lin Chuan saw this and narrowed his eyes slightly. He clearly remembers Bobo's famous scenes in the future. It was the era of the Majin Buu chapter, and Bobo easily withstood the combined efforts of 2 Super Saiyans, Sun Goten and Trunks. Although the two brats didn't mean anything at that time, and they didn't mean to hurt anyone, but despite this, it can be seen how high Bobo's cultivation level is. Because Bobo's combat power exceeded 1000 points, everyone except Lin Chuan made some shocked remarks. After sighing with emotion, Sun Wukong, Klin, and even the Turtle Immortal all had a high respect for Bobo. This was impossible to do before. At most, it was because he was a servant of the gods and had some strength, so he was just polite on the surface. Even Bulma had put aside her grudge against Bobo's appearance at this moment, and felt a little strange about Bobo. This strange feeling is not that she is disgusted, but that she wants to try to maintain a relationship with this black man in the future. Maybe he can become her supporter. It should be said that Bulma is very smart, and she has always been very discerning. In the original work, she came into contact with Bobo because she was looking for the spaceship of the god Piccolo. At the beginning, she was very resistant. Later, after knowing how useful Bobo was, he immediately started to win over him in various ways. If it weren't for the fact that Bobo couldn't leave the Earth as a servant of the gods, she would definitely have dragged Bobo to the planet Namek in the original book. Besides, Bulma's ability to recognize people is even more remarkable in the era of Dragon Ball Super plot. She used her IQ and communication skills to establish a good relationship with the Angel Weiss in a short period of time. At one time, she even bribed Beerus, the god of destruction, with delicious food. She almost indirectly raised Beerus. Became a house cat. Now that everyone is ready, let's hurry up and see the Lord God. Bobo's flying carpet can take 2 people up first. There are a total of 5 people here. As Bobo finished speaking, he began to make statistics. He completely ignored that Sun Wukong, Raditz and Lin Chuan could all fly up by themselves and did not need him to take them with them. It doesn't matter. Mr. Bobo only needs to take Krillin and Grandpa Kame Sennin with him. Although I am not proficient in Wukong, there is still no problem in taking Gohan to the temple. Brother and Lin Chuan's flying ability not to mention. Sun Wukong began to narrate. Hearing this, Bobo nodded and said with a smile, "That's great." Bobo took Klin and teacher Wu Tian with him, which saved a lot of time. After the two briefly communicated, everyone started to take action. Turtle Immortal and Klin got on the flying magic carpet, while Sun Wukong looked at each other with Raditz and Lin Chuan. It was obvious that he was leading the way. In terms of speed, they must be faster if they know the air dance technique. Bobo can control the magic carpet very quickly, but he still needs to take care of Krillin and Kame Sento. He came down just to bring Krillin and Kame Sennin with him. Just when they were about to leave, Bulma, who had been silent and holding back her anger, couldn't help shouting, "What? Are you going to abandon me here like this? I'll give it to you anyway. After you were sent here, why didn't you take me up with you?" Anger is inevitable. Holding it in the palm of your hand when you need it and putting it aside when you don't need it is unbearable for everyone. Bulma's temper can be considered good, at least as shown in the original work. She will always scold her and will not really hold a grudge in her heart. Sorry, but I have to take Gohan with me, and I can't bring you with me. Bobo's magic carpet can only carry 2 people. Sun Wukong was embarrassed, feeling guilty, but helpless. He wouldn't even think about coming down to pick her up. However, Krillin and Kame Sennin thought of it and took the initiative to say, "Otherwise, Mr. Bobo will take Bulma and teacher Wushan up first, and I will wait here." When Bobo heard this, he directly refused. Master Tianshan said to bring everyone up, but he did not mention this woman, so Bobo needs to go up and ask Master Tianshan for instructions. The gods directly excluded Bulma. I have to say that even Lin Chuan couldn't stand it. Thinking about the god Piccolo in the original work, he was indeed very self-righteous at the beginning, and also had a sense of scheming. Don't you take Bulma seriously. Just ignore it. Good guy. If you look down on others now, they will make you unable to reach them in the future. So, that old man from the god has no intention of letting me go up to the god's temple at all. Okay. If you don't let me go up, I will go on my own in the future. I will build advanced jets when I go back, isn't it the gods the temple? I can even build a spaceship. Bulma was so angry that she couldn't care about anything else. What she said made everyone present at a loss. Lin Chuan can understand Bulma. Raditz on the side was directly shocked by Bulma's last words. Build a spaceship. If it were possible, with a spaceship, he could leave the Earth and no longer be restrained. After spending so many years in the universe, does Raditz have a low IQ? If it was really low, he would have died long ago. Raditz is also ensuring the safety of his own life. If his strength cannot be improved within a year, then he can also use a spaceship to escape from the Earth. At that time, there was no surveillance on him, and he could just find a better planet to survive. At least it would be better than on Earth. If you want to go, let me carry you up. Suddenly, Lin Chuan spoke. Everyone was startled when the voice sounded, and Bulma even looked at Lin Chuan in disbelief. Lin Chuan stood there looking at Bulma with a smiling expression. A hidden light flashed in the eyes of Klin and Kame Sento. Raditz looked at Lin Chuan in surprise. It was unbelievable that Lin Chuan would be interested in a woman from Earth. Sun Wukong seemed to have been relieved, and he cast a very good look. Bobo couldn't say anything. One was that he didn't belong to the Earth, and he couldn't be restrained because of him. The other was that he was brought here, and it had nothing to do with him. No one spoke. After Bulma looked around, she made a decision in her heart. There was an impulse lingering in her mind. Friends who have known each other for so many years and have experienced so much together are not as concerned about what they think as a Saiyan who has just arrived on Earth. Even though she was not allowed to go, she still insisted on going to take a look. HMPH. I finally understand now that you are all afraid of others, but they are not as bad as you think. I don't think they are scary at all, but you people treat them differently. Bulma said quickly. Bu Xiao ran to Lin Chuan. This boldness has long gone away from the nervous fear of the unknown Saiyans at the beginning. It seemed that Lin Chuan's kindness and handsome appearance were enough to attract and impress her. No one would know at this time that Bulma was actually pure in her heart. As smart as she is, she has already considered that Lin Chuan is not only powerful, but also capable of resisting future invaders. So she would not miss such a good opportunity to get close to someone. Besides, he is so handsome, with a well-proportioned figure, tall but not burly, and strong but not looking like a muscular man. Even if he hugged her and took advantage of her, she wouldn't suffer. Overall, Bulma is actually a bit of a nymphomaniac. When she compared the men she knew with them, she immediately discovered that no one seemed to be able to compare with Lin Chuan. Then I'll trouble you, Lin Chuan, what Bulma says. Before Sun Wukong could finish his words, he met Bulma's murderous eyes, which directly strangled what he had not finished speaking. Sun Wukong suddenly shed a cold sweat on his head. He immediately said nothing and directly changed the subject. Now that everyone is ready, let's go. Let me lead the way. With that said, Sun Wukong directly picked up Sun Wuhan, comforted him with a few words, then levitated him and flew straight into the sky. It is true that Sun Wukong is not skilled in the performance of Wukong technique. Sun Wukong's achievements in this area are really not considered average at this time. TCH, haven't you mastered even the most basic flying skills? Kakarot is such a loser. Raditz complained, jumped up, and followed Sun Wukong. They took action, and Bobo signaled Klin and Kame Sento in the next second, then controlled the flying magic carpet to follow them. I don't know if it's because the load has reached the standard or something else, but Bobo's rising speed is very slow, even far less than the flying speed of Sun Wukong's clumsy air dance. Seeing them all going up, Lin Chuan's lips twitched and he looked at Bulma. Are you ready? Bulma's cheeks turned slightly red after hearing Lin Chuan's question. She was so bold and informal as she said before, but now she is still shy when she really wants to be picked up. After all, men and women are different, and they are not familiar with each other. Hearing her soft hum, Lin Chuan reached out and picked up the princess. The first thing he felt when he put his hands on the soft jade body was a wonderful touch. This unprecedented feeling made Lin Chuan tremble in his heart. In this life, Lin Chuan had never met a woman like Bulma until today. Even if I saw pigs running around and ate pork in my previous life, the most they could do was hold hands and put their arms around shoulders. Now that Bulma is being held in his arms, he wouldn't know it if he didn't hold her, but once he holds her, he realizes that this woman's figure is so plump. Not to mention her devilish figure, her whole body also exudes an extremely alluring fragrance, which really makes people linger after one smell. It's really hard to imagine, why doesn't Yamcha cherish Bulma, a top-notch woman, when he's guarding her? If it were him, he would have to hold it in his hands and protect it for the rest of his life, fearing that someone else would take it away. Lin Chuan was dull. Bulma is in the same situation. She never expected that Lin Chuan would pick her up so decisively. She was now a little top-heavy, and a special feeling swept over her heart, making her confused. The masculine breath hit her face, the strong masculine breath, and the hot body contact surface, which made her feel as if she had a fever. Lin Chuan was stunned for more than 10 seconds. Fortunately, thanks to the reminder from Bra and the others, Lin Chuan finally came back to his senses. For the first time, Bulma's eyes met again, and Bulma's face turned even redder. Lin Chuan smiled slightly awkwardly, apologizing for being distracted. Remember not to move, I will rush up in one breath and take you to the Temple of Heaven first. After the words fell, Lin Chuan slowly stood up. After the Wukong technique was cast, for just a few seconds, from the ground, there were no traces of Lin Chuan and Bulma. It takes less than tens of seconds. Above the Temple of Heaven. A shadow rushed up from the bottom of the Temple of Heaven, and finally landed steadily in the center of the platform of the Temple of Heaven. It was none other than Lin Chuan who came here holding Bulma. The speed was so fast that it directly surpassed everyone. Even this was just Lin Chuan's casual burst of speed. The vast and majestic celestial temple is filled with a sacred and majestic atmosphere. Invisibly, it brings an extremely strong pressure to people. Of course, if you are strong enough, you can ignore this kind of oppression. It looks just like what I remember. I have to say that the place where the gods live is like a bowl that has been enlarged countless times and is fixed in the sky, full of evil settings. Eyes looking around, Lin Chuan was filled with emotion as the surrounding environment gradually matched the memory in his mind. Sensing the breath and looking forward, Lin Chuan first saw a man standing motionless. The other party was also looking at him there. It was a big fat guy with an afro haircut. Who is Aki Luo, who is not known as Yasuo in a meat suit. Just like in the original work, he was forcefully summoned to practice by the god Piccolo. When their eyes met, Lin Chuan smiled slightly, but didn't take him seriously and looked behind him. Piccolo, the god of heaven, is inside the temple. Lin Chuan's attention was all on the god. At this time, he didn't realize that he had to put Bulma down. At this time, Bulma's consciousness was still flying rapidly, making it impossible for her to come back to her senses. Now that I came back to my senses, I saw the heavenly temple for the first time. I didn't realize that I was still being held. I sighed directly in my heart. Is this, the heavenly temple? It feels completely different from what I imagined. Bulma, who was in Lin Chuan's arms, looked at the surrounding environment with curiosity and disbelief on her face. She had actually wanted to study the existence of the heavenly temple many years ago, but she never had the chance. This time, she got her wish. Thinking of this, Bulma moved her body, and the next second she felt Lin Chuan's tightened palm again, and her mind was confused. Etc. Is she still in Lin Chuan's arms? Bulma suddenly came back to her senses, raised her eyes suddenly, and met Lin Chuan's eyes again. You. Put me down quickly. Bulma blushed, even a little at a loss, and covered her face with her hands, fearing that her embarrassment would be seen. Recalling the previous flight, she hugged Lin Chuan for protection because she was too fast. And this was also brought up by Lin Chuan and said, "When I was flying just now, I don't know who was holding me tightly and yelling at me not to let go." The teasing was so obvious that Bulma blushed even more. Seeing this, Lin Chuan didn't intend to tease her anymore, so he reluctantly put her down. There is ample time. If you do it too much, it will be bad. After getting out of Lin Chuan's arms, Bulma stood aside and breathed a few sighs of relief, then glanced at Lin Chuan with her big, watery eyes. The meaning is obvious. I was so nervous and scared before. Wasn't it because Lin Chuan was too fast? In response, Lin Chuan smiled even brighter. I have to say, Bulma is actually quite cute. At the same time, at the entrance of the Temple of Heaven. At this moment, Akirobe was sweating all over and felt very guilty. Is he that Saiyan? He really has a terrifying aura. Even from such a distance, I can feel the danger from him, as if he could eat me alive. Akilobe's instinct made him fear Lin Chuan. At this moment, he felt strange. Wasn't that woman Bulma afraid of others? Yaki Luobe was frightened by the aura emanating from Lin Chuan's surface. He didn't dare to act rashly, even though he saw Bulma and Lin Chuan standing together, he didn't dare to get close. At this moment, seemingly aware of the arrival of Lin Chuan and Bulma, a figure slowly walked out from the depths of the Temple of Heaven. There is no doubt that he is the god Piccolo. Because of his appearance, Akilobe took action and stood beside the god, as if seeking refuge and acting as a bodyguard. Lin Chuan and Bulma, who were standing in the center of the wide platform square, both cast their gazes. As a time traveler, how could Lin Chuan not recognize him? Bulma had met him at the world's #1 martial arts tournament a few years ago, so he wouldn't be frightened either. Not only that, her favorability towards the god Piccolo now is 0. Back then, because she was a god, she believed in her as a god. However, this time, the god ignored her existence, and her anger would not dissipate easily. Walking forward, the god stood on the huge square, and took the initiative to introduce himself. Welcome to you, Saiyans from the alien planet, I am the god of this earth. After the words fell, God Piccolo looked at Lin Chuan, intending to use his own eyesight to judge how powerful this Saiyan is. He looked at Lin Chuan like this, and Lin Chuan looked him up and down with a smile on his face. For Lin Chuan, he completely ignored the exploration of God Piccolo. As for the God Piccolo, Lin Chuan's aggressive eyes seemed to treat him as a prey, which made him very uncomfortable. As the god of Earth, he has always been the supreme being. As a result, now, he has become an ant in the eyes of others. If the other party is weak, he will definitely punish him in his own way, because this is blasphemy to his god. But he knew how terrifying Lin Chuan's strength was, which he couldn't resist. As the times have progressed, from a few years ago to now, he, the god, has been unable to dominate the overall situation. The most he can do is rely on his years of strategizing to see if he can change the situation. It's truly remarkable that a Namekian became a god on Earth. Unfortunately, as I said, both you and the previous Piccolo are too weak. If you two were one, your strength might exceed 10,000 points, or even higher. Lin Chuan said, not waiting for the god Piccolo to answer for a second. Under the Temple of Heaven, suddenly another polar shadow rushed straight up, and then landed steadily on the Temple of Heaven. The person who came was undoubtedly Raditz. Lin Chuan rushed up directly, but he couldn't bear the tortoise-like speed and caught up with him angrily. TCH. This is the so-called Celestial Temple, where the gods live. For a Namekian to become the god of the earth is really laughable. Sure enough, the earth has always been an inferior planet, and a Namekian is enough to be called a god. Raditz looked at the surrounding environment and muttered words without giving the god Piccolo any dignity. In this regard, God Piccolo dared not speak out in anger, so he could only calm down and hide all his unhappiness in his heart. For him, he only just knew that he was a Namekian. Now that they are so powerful, he can only swallow his anger. God Piccolo is a very smart being. Although his strength is not good, he is very foresight. He has already planned everything, and now he is just waiting for Sun Wukong and others to arrive to implement it. For the sake of the earth, he decided to make the greatest sacrifice, even if he lost face. For the sake of the earth, he even decided to risk everything to keep and influence Raditz and Lin Chuan, who were instigated to rebel. In this way, at least the short-term safety of the earth can be relieved. Not long after, Sun Wukong rushed to the Temple of Heaven with Sun Wufan in his arms. Afterwards, Bobo, who controlled the flying magic carpet, arrived with Krillin and Kame Sennin. We are finally here, Wukong, as well as the bald Krillin and teacher Wu Tian. Finally seeing someone he could rely on, Akilobe approached him. He was scared by Lin Chuan before, and then he was shocked by Raditz's bloodthirsty and cold expression, so he didn't even dare to speak. We haven't seen each other for a while, Akilobe. Have you been summoned by the Lord God? Sun Wukong said to Akilobe with a smile on his face. Klin scolded loudly from the side. Don't you have any manners? Although I am bald, please call me by my name when you address me. Okay, Klin. Akirobe probably didn't mean it. Also, God is here, let's calm down first. Turtle Immortal hurriedly reminded Klin to pay attention to his emotions and not to be overly excited. As martial arts masters, although this is not the first time they have seen the gods, now that they have come to the temple and the gods are in front of them, they should maintain the most basic respect. HMPH. I'm too lazy to get angry with him. Clint replied angrily. It should be said that everyone has their own bottom line, and once it is touched, there will definitely be emotional fluctuations. I didn't mean it, really, you're a stingy guy. Yakiluo-bey thought so much. He was habitually lazy, so he always spoke in a nonchalant manner. This is also in line with his character. He is a ronin in the jungle. You can even say that he is a savage. To put it bluntly, Yakiluo-bey is able to stand here today entirely because of his relationship with Sun Wukong. With Sun Wukong, he had the opportunity to come into contact with Kalanta. As a result, I have been dependent on Kalanta for the rest of my life. The reason why the fairy beans in the original work have no production and inventory is all thanks to him. Let's put aside the matters between Clint and Akilobe for the time being. Sun Wukong took his son and walked up to the god Piccolo and said, "Let me introduce you first. This is my son Sun Wuhan. Gohan, this is the god Dad has told you before, of." The timid Sun Wuhan, under the leadership of Sun Wukong, is no longer as timid as he was at the beginning. I don't know if he was born with the Namekians. After seeing the god Piccolo, he said directly, "My name is Sun Gohan. I am 4 years old this year. Hello, Grandpa God." A simple greeting made the god Piccolo happy. However, now is not the time to coax the child. He smiled and nodded and said, "Okay, I haven't seen you for a few years, and you also have a son. I can see that your son has extraordinary potential and his future achievements are limitless. Hehe. Let me borrow the good words from Lord God. By the way, we are all here now. We can tell you what arrangements Lord God has," Sun Wukong said with a smile. After the words fell, God Piccolo also seized this opportunity. After taking a deep breath, he gathered his emotions and started to speak. Although the Tianjin rice, dumplings, and Yamu tea are not here, everyone is here, so I won't hide it and talk straight to the point. In order to cope with the crisis that will come in a year, it may even involve the Universe Emperor Frieza you talked about, so I know clearly that you all must become stronger as quickly as possible. As the god of the earth, I know a special place where an expert lives. With my ability, I can recommend you to go there and practice. I believe that with the guidance of that expert, no matter who it is, their strength can increase significantly in a short period of time." As God Piccolo's words came out, Sun Wukong and Clint immediately became excited after hearing them. The gods have said so, which means it is definitely not false. In this case, even if those two Saiyans are heinous, they will be able to handle it on their own after arriving on Earth, and they will not need to rely on Lin Chuan's power. "Well, Lord God, who is this senior master you are talking about? Where is he? Are there any such masters on our Earth?" Sun Wukong asked eagerly. "Never heard of it, never seen it. As one of the top masters on Earth, how could he not be excited when he was told the news?" At this time, Sun Wukong would not know that God Piccolo was not talking about existence on Earth. Because of these words, not only Sun Wukong, Krillin, Akirobe and Kame Sennin pricked up their ears. Raditz also heard it clearly and frowned, feeling surprised again. This god is too loud. It is acceptable to say that it is to prevent the invasion of Nappa and Vegeta, but it also involves Frieza. What is the concept of this? Lin Chuan also didn't expect that God Piccolo would say these words directly at this time. This is to expose the King of Kai. Wukong, you need to change your temper. Because if you meet this existence in your current state, if you are rude, you may not have the chance to accept his guidance. He is also a god. And his status is far above that of the god of earth like me. As for where he is, I'm afraid it will scare you if I tell you. Because this god is a super existence in the underworld. He is also the most supreme of our northern galaxy, Lord Kaio. God Piccolo's expression became more and more serious as he spoke. King, Lord Kai, Earth, Underworld. Sun Wukong looked at the God Piccolo in shock, feeling in disbelief. Although I am very curious in my heart, what kind of existence is this king of the realm? But, if they are in the underworld, how should they get there? That is the world of the dead. As for the underworld, isn't that the world after death? Is it possible, Lord God, are you going to send us to the world after death? Or, After we die, we can go to the Underworld to find that realm king to practice. Klin was so frightened that his face was livid, and he was even a little confused. He died once and also went to the Underworld. But he was later resurrected by the dragon, so he returned to the human world. Akilab on the side was obviously frightened. He didn't want to die. The world after death, the Underworld, the supreme king of the northern galaxy, king of the realm. What the hell is this? Raditz was so dizzy as he listened to the words of the god Piccolo that he almost thought he was dreaming. He doesn't know anything about this. Coming to Earth, I constantly refreshed my world view. Now even the world after death has appeared, and a supreme king of the realm has appeared. He has been fighting in the universe for many years, but he feels that his life has been in vain. King of Kai, I have heard of his existence. So you, the god of the earth, had this idea in mind, so you summoned us here. Lin Chuan's sudden words caught everyone by surprise. At this time, Lin Chuan once again gave people the feeling that he seemed to know everything. At this time, especially the god Piccolo, it was hard for him to imagine what kind of existence Lin Chuan was. As a Saiyan, he actually knew about the existence of the King of Kai. Lin Chuan, do you know Lord Kaio? So, this so-called king of the realm is really powerful and can guide us to become stronger. Sun Wukong's words were filled with urgency. He also wanted to get some information about the King of Kai from Lin Chuan. If even Lin Chuan said that this realm king was incredible, then he was definitely right. As far as I know, our universe is divided into 4 major galaxies, and there are 4 corresponding Kaios. They are the 4 major realm kings of Southeast, Southeast, Northwest, and are in charge of the 4 major galaxies. What we are in now is the Northern Galaxy. So, what this god of yours should have said is for you to go find the king of the North Kaikai. Among the Kaiong, the Northern Kaiong is indeed quite capable and has such a skill. Lin Chuan's explanation was simple and clear, and seemed to contain little information, but it still stunned everyone present. It can be said that this is Lin Chuan adding fuel to the fire. Otherwise, the plot will not proceed smoothly. It is necessary for Sun Wukong and the others to go to the King of Kai to practice, but he will not go, and he does not need to go. Is this true? Talos, that king of some kind, controls the 4 major galaxies in our universe. Raditz asked in disbelief. Seeing Lin Chuan nodding, Raditz took a deep breath. He has been fighting in the universe, invading various planets, and Raditz belongs to Frieza's legion. Naturally, he knows how big the universe is. The Northern Galaxy alone is too big to imagine. The 4 major galaxies in the universe, this is no ordinary galaxy. Simply speaking, the North Galaxy is known to have tens of thousands of huge star fields. There are hundreds of millions of galaxies in a star field, and each galaxy has many galaxies. In comparison, he suddenly felt how stupid he was at this moment. He is like a frog in a well. A new concept was born, allowing him to compare the Northern Kaio with Frieza. He suddenly felt that the Kaio was more powerful than Frieza. Raditz wouldn't know, he was overthinking. Being in charge does not mean that one must be powerful. So this Kaio-sama is really powerful. To be in charge of a quarter of the universe, this is incredible. Sun Wukong reacted, and the blood in his body began to boil. It is undoubtedly a great opportunity to be able to learn from such a super being. As Sun Wukong regained consciousness, Klin beside him also became excited. His brain is actually smarter than Sun Wukong. If you don't understand now, you will be a fool. He is also a martial artist who hopes to become stronger. How can he be content with the status quo? The atmosphere began to change. More and more information has been exposed, and the atmosphere has become increasingly heated. There is no doubt that the existence of the King of Kai is indeed one of the supreme existences in this era. But in fact, existences like the King of Kai will be placed in the future, and that is the existence at the bottom. After the plot develops to the Majin Buu chapter, Kaioshin will be blocked. Only the God of Destruction can be regarded as the supreme God of the universe. Even if Kaioshin and the God of Destruction are equal in terms of divine status, how does Kaioshin's strength compare to that of the God of Destruction? When Lin Chuan said those words, he felt dumbfounded. Because he couldn't talk too much about the King of Kai, otherwise, who among them would be willing to receive guidance and practice? Therefore, it is necessary to praise the King of Kai in a more exaggerated manner. At the same time, while everyone was surprised and daydreaming, God Piccolo looked at Lin Chuan with a dull expression. I didn't expect that he knew everything about the Kaio-sama in such detail. But where did he know it? Could it be that gods from other planets told him? The god was thinking secretly in his heart. Apart from this, there is no other possibility. After all, except for their gods who know the underworld and the existence of the King of Realms, ordinary people, no matter how powerful they are, cannot know or come into contact with them. Unless it is a dead person, I heard in the underworld. As his thoughts deepened, Sun Wukong suddenly spoke at this moment, pulling his consciousness back from his imagination. Lord God, then how do we get to the underworld and how do we get to Lord Kaio? Sun Wukong asked. Is it really like what Clint said, that we should die and then go find him? I don't have a problem, after all. Even if I die once, the Dragon Balls can resurrect me, but not Krillin and Grandpa Kamazinto. They have already died once. If they die again, Shenlong won't be able to resurrect them, right? Being able to say things that don't care about death shows how simple-minded Sun Wukong is. And his words attracted everyone present. Especially Raditz. His eyes widened and he couldn't believe that Dragon Balls could resurrect people. You don't need to worry about this. As a god, although my combat ability is indeed not as good as yours, I am a god and have the authority of a god. I can take you across the two realms of yin and yang and directly into the underworld. The god answered, and then his face straightened. Before Sun Wukong, Klin, and the turtle immortal Akirobe could express their joy and prepare to say something, he directly said, it's very simple to go to the underworld. Going to the Kaio-sama to practice is the only thing I can think of so far. The only way to become stronger the fastest. However, not all of you can go to the underworld. Even as a god, I can only send 2 living people to the underworld. This is the bottom line for challenging Lord Yama, so among you, only 2 individuals can go to the underworld to learn from King Kai, and Wukong is one of them. I believe you will have no objection. As for the other person, the god's words were like pouring a basin of ice water on everyone present. This is equivalent to the fact that there is only one place to go to practice with the King of Kai. Who among them can follow Sun Wukong to learn from his master? Although there were only Klin, Aki Luobe and Kame Sennin present, Tianjin rice, Yamu tea, and dumplings were mentioned before. You can't hide it from them, right? Everyone fell into silence, and it was the turtle immortal who gave Klin a look, signaling him to quickly take over the spot. As Klin's master, Klin has always been the only one who has been truly by his side. Sun Wukong was his most proud disciple, but he always cared about Klin. He knew that this was one of the few opportunities for Krillin to become stronger, so he had to seize it. If he can grasp it, both of his apprentices will soar into the sky in the future. I understand, Teacher Wu Tian. Klin understood immediately. However, just when he was about to explain it to the gods, others took a step ahead. There is still one spot, so let me go. You don't really think that people on Earth can become stronger if they practice, right? The only ones who can deal with us Saiyans are us Saiyans ourselves. As for Frieza, haha, Raditz's voice was so domineering. When he said such words, even Lin Chuan was surprised. Good guy, Raditz took the initiative to ask for help, which was completely different from what he thought. Originally, he was thinking about whether he could arrange for Raditz and Sun Wukong to go to the King of the North to practice together. First, slowly and gradually change Raditz's mentality and personality. Second, if Raditz accepts the guidance of the King of the North, what will happen in the future? How strong will it become? Brother, are you going? Sun Wukong also paused for a moment because of Raditz's initiative. For a moment, his mind was filled with images he had never thought of. Krillin and Kame Sento on the side could only hold back their tempers from exploding because of Raditz's words. Who makes people strong? But they believed in their hearts that the gods would never allow Raditz to go. After all, they had just arrived on Earth and were planning to invade it. Hey, old guy from the gods, you don't have any objections when I say that I want to follow Kakarot to find that King of Realms to practice, right? Raditz's behavior was obviously full of intimidation. This has been his habit for many years. As a Saiyan, he followed Vegeta and Nappa to invade hundreds of planets. His aloof mentality has long been cultivated and will not be changed easily. If Raditz changed in the next second, even Lin Chuan would have to wonder if he was also a time traveler like him. Piccolo fell into deep thought. To be honest, if there was no other way, he wouldn't want to give this opportunity to a heinous person like Raditz who would invade the planet. But he also knew that Raditz was right. The only ones who can deal with Saiyans are Saiyans. No matter how strong the people on Earth are, they may have their limits. Even if it can grow, it will take more time. This point can be seen in the difference between Sun Wukong and other martial arts masters. I only hope that this person will be infected by Wukong and change after he goes to Master Kaio to practice with Wukong. Once the relationship between their brothers is cultivated, it will naturally be the best for the future of the Earth. The god secretly thought in his heart. This was his initial thought. As for Lin Chuan, this Saiyan is too mysterious, and what he reveals on the surface is an uncontrollable aura. In this case, then you and Goku will go to the Kaio to train together. You are brothers. Raditz, you have also abandoned the darkness and turned to the light. I believe that together, you brothers may be able to go beyond the ordinary and become stronger. God Piccolo nodded and said solemnly. God Piccolo's words turned Kame Sen and Krillin to stone on the spot. Oculobe shivered even more. God, Lord God, how can you agree? He almost killed Wukong, and also captured Wukong's son Gohan. If he is allowed to go with Wukong, then maybe. Klin wanted to stop him, but at this point, he had to shut up. Not only did the god Piccolo look at him in reply, but Raditz also gave him a look of disdain. Little bald man, what do you know? Do you know, if it were me before, I would have killed you long ago. Raditz turned around with murderous intent on his face. The intimidation brought by just one sentence scared Klin so much that he could only endure it. I'm warning you, this is the Temple of Heaven, and everyone is here, so don't mess around. Klin forced down the fear in his heart and gritted his teeth. In response, Raditz burst out laughing. This little bald man actually learned to threaten him. It's okay, Klin, I don't know about the big brother before, but the big brother now has become different. The reason why he attacked me before was just to take me away from the Earth and invade other planets. I think there are factors of the two Saiyans in it. My eldest brother probably didn't have the ability to fight against fate before. Now that he has the chance, he will naturally not be the same as before. Since I have chosen to believe, I will believe it to the end. Moreover, I am also looking forward to going to Master Kaio to practice with my eldest brother. What will be the result? Sun Wukong took the initiative to reach out and pat Klin on the shoulder. He was excusing Raditz and easing the relationship between everyone. It should be said that even Lin Chuan sometimes couldn't understand Sun Wukong's thoughts. It became too fast. One moment he wanted to kill his elder brother, but now he forgives him. But, alas, okay, seeing Sun Wukong acting like this, Klin originally wanted to say something, but when he noticed that Turtle Immortal also shook his head at him, he could only accept it. He also wanted to practice. But this opportunity was taken away by Raditz. No one understands his pain. However, he didn't give up completely. Knowing what the future will be like, even if he can't go to Master Kaio to practice, he will not sit still and wait for death. On the side, Lin Chuan witnessed all this happening and felt even more deeply. It seems that the changes I made have slowly deviated from the original trajectory. Although the main line has not changed, the seeds have been planted. The world is starting to look different. Klin, you don't need to feel sorry or aggrieved. Although I can't send you to Master Kaio to practice, you can stay in the Celestial Temple to practice in the next year. Including Tianjin rice, dumplings, and Yamu tea. They are all the leading martial artists on Earth. I will also arrange for Bobo to find them later. Seeing Klin's discouragement and unwillingness, God Piccolo began to reveal his other plans in depth. Naturally, he also wants to train the warriors on Earth to take their skills to the next level. Only in this way can the crisis a year from now be more completely resolved. At least, this is another way to keep the Earth safe. Is this really okay? Klin's eyes flashed with wonder after hearing what the god Piccolo said. For him, practicing in the Temple of Heaven is also a great thing. At least, it was much better than what he could achieve by practicing on his own. Just like that, under the words of the god Piccolo, and with Lin Chuan adding fuel to the fire. Lin Chuan and Raditz were completely involved in the subsequent plot of the original work. However, Lin Chuan is different from Raditz. He does not need to practice according to the arrangements of the gods, and no one can influence him. It is worth mentioning that I did not expect the god Piccolo to be so anxious. He said that there was no need to delay, and took Sun Wukong and Raditz on the road to the Underworld. It seems that they are afraid that Sun Wukong and Raditz will repent or become heretics again, and all their plans will be in vain. Others don't know God Piccolo's plan, how can Lin Chuan not know it? Now, about 20 minutes have passed. Because there was no God and no Raditz, Lin Chuan was too lazy to say anything else. He walked aside and thought about his next plan. Since coming to Earth until now, I have been using the information I know to make changes. Now that the overall situation has been decided, it is my turn. Because they were far away, Lin Chuan didn't care about the situation on the other side at all. After all, everyone else is acquaintances. Even though Bobo has only met the others twice, Bulma, Kame Sennin, Krillin, and Sun Wuhan are all acquaintances, and they all have a common language. Of course, even if they couldn't hear clearly, Lin Chuan could roughly guess that they must have felt that God Piccolo's decision to let Raditz go to the Kaiosama to train together was reckless. In addition, they must also be thinking about how to explain to Chi-Chi next. After all, Wukong just left, and this journey will take at least a year. Standing on the edge of the Temple of Heaven, Lin Chuan took a deep breath of the fresh breath. This feeling was condescending, and it really felt like overlooking all living beings. No wonder the original Piccolo wanted to be this god even if he separated himself. Take charge of a planet and become the ruler of countless lives. How exciting and proud is this? If Dragon Ball does not follow the plot of the Z era, then he came through time and wanted to try to be this god, the Supreme One. Of course, the world is too big and the earth is too small. It was impossible for Lin Chuan to be restricted by a little god. His future will definitely be extremely brilliant. And what he has to do is to keep getting stronger and keep moving forward. Speaking of which, if I want to rise quickly in a short period of time, there is a fastest way. With this thought in his mind, Lin Chuan turned around and looked towards the temple of Tianshan Temple. As a time traveler, how could I not know the existence of the spiritual time room? A year inside is just a day outside. With the infinite combat power improvement system he holds, even if his combat power is only plus 1 point per second, as long as he enters it, he can increase his combat power for a year in 1 day outside. A day is 86,400 seconds. A month of 30 days is 2,592,000 seconds. 12 months in a year is 31,104,000 seconds. Based on the fact that each person can only enter for 2 days at the beginning, which is 2 years of training, his combat power can be increased to more than 60 million points. It's equivalent to doing nothing and he can be so strong. Moreover, plus 1 year from the outside world in the future, when he goes to planet Namek to face Frieza, even if he cannot become a Super Saiyan and has a combat power of over 100 million, he will be enough to face Frieza then. The combat power exceeds 100 million. You can withstand Frieza's edge. This is just the basics. After all, only when the combat power reaches the standard can we stand on the same platform and face each other face to face. Of course, he will not simply rely on the system. Because although his combat power value can be continuously increased through the system, other aspects cannot. He himself also needs to take action to practice moves, skills, combat methods, combat experience. Only in this way can his true combat power match his own combat power. Although the system is very powerful, Lin Chuan always feels that he can be stronger given his current strength. Imagine that if your own combat power exceeds 100 million, but you can only exert a combat power of no more than 10 million, what does that mean? In other words, if you rely solely on the system, it will indeed be no problem to crush Frieza in the near future, but if he only has the same combat power as Frieza's final transformation, he will still be crushed by Frieza. If this happens, he will really be a loser. Frankly speaking, Lin Chuan now has great confidence. Thinking about the past on planet V3114, it was because of limited resources and limited conditions, so he could only increase his strength to 15,000 points of combat power, let alone explore how to transform into a Super Saiyan. Simply put, if there are not enough activated S cells in the body, how can it change? There is a way to transform into a Super 1, super era, so after studying it for a period of time to no avail, Lin Chuan also found the reason. Nowadays, there are all kinds of possibilities on Earth, and many of the cultivation methods provided in the original work are applicable to him. For example, gravity cultivation is the most powerful cultivation method in this era. In the original work, Sun Wukong went to northern Kaiwang to practice. Firstly, although he relied on the guidance of northern Kaiwang, secondly, 10 times the gravity of the Earth was also the key. Later, after Sun Wukong was seriously injured and healed, he activated his Saiyan characteristics and became stronger. After 100 times gravity, he directly reached 90,000 combat power points. The time consumed during this period was only 6 days. Withdrawing his mind, Lin Chuan also shifted his gaze as he looked at the main hall of the Heavenly Temple. Nowadays, it is still a little too early to enter the spiritual time room. It's not that he doesn't want to become stronger quickly, but there are 2 problems. First, it is unknown whether the spiritual time house is recognized by the system and whether it can increase combat power. After all, this is a bug. He tried to contact him, but he didn't get any answer, and the system didn't give any prompts. He just felt that the system was half finished, and he didn't even know how to improve the level. Second, even if the system approves it, the current level 1 ability is combat power plus 1 per second. With his current strength, it will take 2 years to enter and he can only increase his combat power by just over 60 million. But if the system level is improved in the future, the combat power per second can be plus 10, or even plus 100, or plus 1000. Entering again at that time is the best choice. More haste, less speed. Lin Chuan made his decision only after thinking over and over again. At least, he can now use himself to become stronger. The system's combat power has been improved, but it can only be used as a support. Lin Chuan took a deep breath and changed his mind, and now saw Sun Wuhan over there. Thinking of what Sun Wukong said before leaving, he directly entrusted Sun Wuhan to him. This really made Lin Chuan's mouth twitch involuntarily. Sun Wukong meant to let him guide Sun Wufan, and he had a good idea. He himself would influence his eldest brother, and his son would use it to build a good relationship with him. Lin Chuan originally wanted to refuse, but seeing how obedient and proactive Sun Wuhan was, he couldn't refuse directly. Therefore, I just agreed to help take care of him, but it was impossible to accept a disciple. Even though Sun Wuhan has terrifying potential, he is also the strongest single warrior in the future. But if he follows him, what will Piccolo do in the future? Today's Piccolo is still the great demon King Piccolo. In the original work, it was precisely because of Sun Wuhan's company that he was able to completely change. In the end, Lin Chuan's decision was to take Sun Wufan with him first, and then find an opportunity to send it to Piccolo. Besides, with his teaching methods and habits, if he really followed him to practice, he was really afraid of destroying Sun Wufan. After all, he is only 4 years old. Slowly walking forward, Lin Chuan left the edge of the Temple of Heaven. Just as he was about to go over and say something to Bulma over there, Bulma's voice reached his ears. Really, I haven't come back for so long. I can only wait and wait here. It's so boring. She was originally curious about the Temple of Heaven, but in the past 20 minutes, she had visited every corner of the Temple of Heaven and found nothing special. Her curiosity turned into disappointment. Around her, Krillin and Kamezento were much more patient. They know better about the current situation and know that now they can only wait here. Okay Bulma, now is not the time to be anxious. You were the one who came up making noise just now, weren't you? Krillin couldn't help but complain. He was about to say something else when he saw his master's face straighten and he followed his gaze. Seeing Lin Chuan walking quickly, he also became alert and was sweating profusely. From beginning to end, Lin Chuan was too mysterious and too powerful. Seeing their nervous resistance, Lin Chuan did not take it seriously, but directly said to Bulma, "You won't be bored after a while, Kakarot." "Forget it, I'll call him Sun Wukong." "Quite familiar. That boy Sun Wukong should have told you to help me find the Dragon Ball on Earth." After the words fell, Lin Chuan waited for Bulma's answer. After seeing off God Piccolo, Sun Wukong, and Raditz just now, Lin Chuan said nothing more. "I mentioned it now, just to make sure, and to look for it later." There are some wishes that Lin Chuan can't wait to realize. For him, some time is expendable, but some time he is not willing to waste. Since it was told by Wukong, I will definitely help you find it. But to be honest, I'm curious. You are so powerful, what else do you need the Dragon Balls to help you realize? Is it to be immortal? To rule the world? But Wukong said, if it is that kind of wish, you want me to stop you? Bulma said with a strange smile on her face, a bit quirky. If I really want to make such a wish, how can you stop me? Lin Chuan showed a conspiratorial expression. Such a performance directly frightened Krillin, Kame Sento, and Akirobe in front of them. Bulma, on the other hand, was not panicked at all. She seemed to know that Lin Chuan was not the kind of unreasonable, evil and domineering Saiyan. That's why I said he was a big idiot. Bulma said. How do you say that? Lin Chuan asked in surprise. What should I say? Of course, he has already agreed to help you find the Dragon Balls to make a wish. Then it will be determined what wish you will make by then. Who can stop it? He can't do it, let alone a weak woman like me. Bulma rolled her eyes and changed the subject the next second. However, I am not worried at all that you will make that wish now, because if you really want to make that wish, just say it and no one on earth can stop it. Ni. After the words fell, Lin Chuan couldn't help but look at her again. Bulma is really extremely smart. What she said was absolutely correct. In fact, no one can control what wish he wants to make from the beginning. Unless, the existence of Dragon Ball is directly destroyed. Hey. Bulma, are you so sure? Why do I feel like that's what he thinks? Klin interjected, worried. His words caused Bulma to feel helpless. It was obvious that Krillin was so stupid and made Bulma angry. In Bulma's mind, Krillin was usually very smart, so why did he still not understand even though she spoke so clearly? Their strength is there, what's the use of worrying about it now? Bulma is right. I also believe that this Saiyan Lin Chuan will not make too many wishes. So Klin, you don't have to worry, and Goku has gone to practice with Lord Kaio. Now it's the face of the earth, don't be so petty all the time. Turtle Immortal said, signaling to Klin to be more generous. Turtle Immortal is worried. He knows that if his apprentice is too outspoken, he will make the other party unhappy. After all, he is a Saiyan, he has just arrived on Earth not long ago, and he is very powerful. Although he appears to be a good person, it takes time to prove what kind of person he is. Kame Sennin actually understood what Bulma meant, which was that if Lin Chuan was so strong, they could only rely on him and not resist. At least not now, Lord Tenjin. Suddenly, just when Lin Chuan was about to praise Bulma, he heard Bobo calling out. The next second, everyone turned their attention. God Piccolo has stood again at the place where he disappeared before. The only difference is that he is sweating profusely and panting. It can be seen that the consumption of traveling between the yin and yang realms is extremely high. I'm afraid, this is also the reason why Piccolo, the god of heaven, said that he could only take 2 people with him. Naturally, Yama, the Underworld king, can turn a blind eye, but he will certainly not allow the same thing to happen twice. Therefore, there are only 2 places, which is a fixed number. Lord Tenjin, you are back. Have Goku and his eldest brother Raditz arrived at Lord North Kaio's place? Kame Sennin took the initiative to step forward and asked. He is concerned about the specific situation of his disciples. After all, it is related to whether Sun Wukong can obtain the inheritance of the King of Kai. Don't worry, I have sent them to the Underworld. As for whether they can see Lord North Kaio, they still need to go through a training. Only by successfully passing through the snake path of the Underworld can they reach Lord Kaio's planet for training. God Piccolo waited for a long time before he replied feebly. I see. If you want to meet a higher god, you also need to complete the test. But I believe that with Wukong's qualifications and the strength of his elder brother, completing the test will not be a problem. Turtle Sennin said after thinking. God Piccolo nodded, and then looked at Krillin and Akirobe. Now Goku and Raditz have gone to the Underworld to undergo training. Then it's up to you next. After hearing the words of the God Piccolo, Krillin's face became solemn, while Akirobe beside him seemed to be retreating. Please give me your clarification, Lord God. Klin asked respectfully. In his heart, God is still supreme. Hearing this, the god nodded with satisfaction, and after thinking for a moment, he said directly, "It is inevitable to teach you how to practice, but as I said before that, we need to find Tianjin rice, dumplings, and Yamu tea." Actually, Bobo already knows roughly which area they are in, but the specific location still needs to be found. After all, they have been moving around. I hope you can accompany Bobo and explain the matter clearly. In the end, you will bring them all to me. Although my guidance is not as good as that of King Kai, it is still better than your own blind practice. Having said this, God Piccolo stopped. Okay, I will follow Mr. Bobo to find Tianjin Fan and the others. If they are with me, I will be more motivated. Clin raised his wrist and made a gesture of getting ready to go. In Lin Chuan's opinion, this scene was truly innocent. It should be said that this era has just entered the era of the big universe. Everyone is changing, and the desire to become stronger is particularly strong. The way Clin is now, I'm afraid it will be difficult to see him in the future. Also suddenly, Lin Chuan had an idea. He remembered that in the original work, they could find Tianjin rice the fastest with the help of Raditz's combat power detector, so he pretended to say, "Although I don't know what you are looking for." Who are they? But they should all be some masters with outstanding combat effectiveness on the earth, right? Looking at your appearance, you don't know the specific location, so you can't find it in a short time. Maybe I can help you with this. As he said this, Lin Chuan's lips froze. After hearing Lin Chuan's voice, the others were shocked. They don't know what Lin Chuan means. What are you going to do? Bulma was not worried or frightened, and she didn't have any vigilance at all. She took the initiative and said, "I didn't expect you to have such a side and be so warm-hearted. Don't get me wrong, I just hope you can end the arrangement quickly. After all, I still need you to help me find the Dragon Balls. Moreover, this is really nothing to me, and I don't need my assistance. I just need to go to my spaceship to get the combat power detector. As long as the combat effectiveness reaches the standard, the specific location of the existence with high combat effectiveness can be easily marked within the scope of the Earth." Lin Chuan did not take Bulma's good guy card and said methodically, "Warm-hearted, do not make jokes. He just hopes to end it quickly and leave here. Moreover, she also hopes to use alien technology to let Bulma help her build the spaceship and gravity training room he needs." Combat strength detector. Are you referring to the thing Raditz is wearing on his face? Clin suddenly recalled the scene when he was reported to have combat strength. At the same time, he also remembered that Raditz was on Earth. His actions were all so vigorous and resolute. Now he finally understands that Raditz was able to find Turtle Fairy Island so quickly and found them because of the combat power detector. This thing can not only measure the combat power value and show how strong a person is, but it can also lock the target and indicate the direction. It would indeed be much more convenient if there was such a thing to help. I see. I'm really curious as to how your alien technology can achieve this. Bulma said in disbelief, her words full of wanting to see the combat power detector as soon as possible. And of course there are spaceships. It should be said that she is indeed a genius scientist, and her mind is the best in the world. Once prompted, anything can be made. In the future, even time machines can be built. The combat effectiveness detector can be lent to you, but I don't know if you can understand the words on it. Seeing Bulma's reaction, Lin Chuan knew that his bait had worked, so he didn't forget to add another sentence. It is a combat power detector dedicated to Frieza's Legion. The alphanumeric information on it is different from the alphanumeric information on Earth. Lin Chuan could understand that it was entirely the cultural information in this area that was inherited by the Saiyans. Although I have never seen the text about this world and the Earth, the original work mentions it, so strictly speaking, to the people on Earth, Raditz's detector in the original work shows a bunch of garbled codes. Later, Bulma modified the detector and converted the text to digital information so that it could be understood. What, if it's just a small problem like this, just leave it to me. As long as it's not an overly complicated device, give me some time and I can use our Earth's methods to transform the language module. Bulma said it was said so lightly and decisively. It shows how confident she is in herself. Are you sure? Lin Chuan narrowed his eyes slightly and said, "What, are you questioning my ability? I am the most talented beauty on Earth." Bulma, who has always been strong, does not allow herself to be doubted in her exclusive field. Therefore, She immediately decided in her heart that she must do this, otherwise she would be looked down upon. So what this woman, said before about building a spaceship is also true. Since that's the case, it couldn't be better. Come with me and help me repair the damage to the spaceship. Lin Chuan followed Bulma's words and said, repair the spaceship. When the topic changed to this, Bulma was slightly startled, and then everyone else also reacted. If there was no such thing as an invasion, and there was no Saiyan invasion a year later, it would be nothing to help our space friends repair the spaceship. But these are extraordinary times. I'm willing to help you, but I can't give you an accurate answer until I see the spaceship as to whether it can be repaired. Bulma did not fully agree, and she continued, by the way, you don't want to let me help you repair the spaceship, then make a wish and run away, right? I have to say, this idea is really clever. She is really smart enough to think of this. Don't worry, although I have just come to Earth, I don't hate this planet, so I will continue to live on Earth for a while. Repairing the spaceship is only to facilitate my future space travel. After all, it's impossible to stay on Earth forever, and I have my own things to do. By the way, I have a suggestion. Since you are such a genius, if you can create a better multi-person spaceship, I can take you on a space shuttle. If I have a technician like you by my side, I won't have to worry about the spacecraft being broken and no one will be able to repair it. Lin Chuan answered Bulma's question, and hinted in an alternative form, so that he could subtly let Bulma help him create something in the next time. Space travel. Now that I think about it, if my sister and I had made the same choice back then, maybe. As soon as the word stopped, Bulma's eyes flashed with a trace of disappointment. She remembered that when she was a child, her sister Tais ran away from home and followed a galactic patrolman named Gak to leave the Earth and travel through the universe. I remember the last contact was a long time ago. Now that she has grown up, she really didn't expect that one day she would have the opportunity to travel through the universe. Well, if I go to travel to the universe, can I go too? Suddenly, a timid and delicate voice sounded in the tense atmosphere. Everyone looked around and saw who was talking if it wasn't Sun Wuhan. This little guy actually dares to travel to the universe. Call him timid, indeed. But let's call him brave. He is indeed brave and he is not afraid that he will not be able to come back. Gohan, you are too young. This idea is very dangerous. Krillin on the side seemed to be worried that Sun Wukong's child would learn badly, so he stopped him. There is a hint of education in the words. Conservative thinking and stubborn. I have never experienced space travel, so I am very old-fashioned in this aspect. Thinking about it, in the original work, he also boarded the spaceship to the planet Namek, which opened up his world view. Beside him, Kame Sennin was silent as he looked at Sun Wuhan, his eyes under his sunglasses filled with an intriguing taste. With his sophisticated eyesight, he was certain that Wukong, the son of his disciple, would achieve limitless future achievements as long as he was guided. If you are afraid, don't scare the children. Bulma stepped forward and interrupted Krillin's threatening education, and immediately said, what's wrong with wanting to travel to the universe? Isn't it just leaving the Earth? How can Gohan do this? The idea is a good thing, it shows that he wants to see a broader world. Also, our little Gohan's future goal is to become a scholar. Don't limit his thoughts. After Bulma finished speaking, she looked at Sun Wuhan with full praise in her eyes. The 4-year-old child is much braver and more mature than she was before. Although she is a girl, Krillin was embarrassed after being scolded by Bulma. Sun Wuhan spoke again at this time. Aunt Bulma, I just want to go to outer space to see what the Earth looks like if there is a spaceship. I also want to see Jupiter, Mars, the Sun, Dotun. There are many other planets. That childish voice was full of mysterious expectations for the stars and the sea, without any fear. It can be seen that people in the new era are fundamentally different from people in the old era. If your Aunt Bulma can really build a multi-person spaceship, your wish will not come true. Lin Chuan answered at this time. This kid was a great helper, and he unconsciously cooperated with him to create a perfect combination of punches. This also meant that no matter what Lin Chuan said, Bulma would remember everything in his heart. Based on Bulma's ideological outlook, she should have realized that if the Earth did not have a spaceship and people on Earth could not enter the universe, then it would always lag behind aliens. Thank you, Uncle Lin Chuan. Sun Wufan bowed politely in gratitude. What he did really made Lin Chuan a little embarrassed. This kid is indeed so kind and simple that he doesn't need it. Then, without further ado, I'm really sorry to trouble you, Mr. Lin Chuan. As the god of the earth, I sincerely thank you for being able to help us. God Piccolo came up and said. He was urging me. With his current mood, he was very confused and anxious. Therefore, even if Sun Wuhan, the son of Sun Wukong, had such a bold idea, he chose to ignore it. After all, it won't come true in a short time. He wouldn't know that what he ignored would be the strongest single player in the future. I said, I'm just doing it for myself. Lin Chuan didn't take the God Piccolo's overtures seriously. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.